Chapter 1176. The 20,000 Buddha Relic Towers. So this is the Buddha's final trump card. The beautiful man was also shocked. This is the result of 10,000 years of painstaking effort of the Buddha's senior monks. That's right. The 20,000 Buddha Relic Towers were created by the current revered Buddha and the previous revered Buddhas using 10,000 golden cores. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva bowed slightly, his eyes red. However, this relic tower has yet to be completed. Although it has the power of a spirit treasure, it has yet to produce spiritual thoughts. I see. As soon as he said this, there was no need for him to explain in detail. Everyone came to a sudden realization. The 20,000 Buddha relic towers contained the relics of 10,000 senior monks, but the relics often contained remnant souls. They cultivated the same cultivation technique, and the quality and attributes of their golden cores were the same, making it easy to refine. However, their spiritual thoughts were different, and they each had their own ideas, memories, and attachments. Therefore, it was difficult to combine their spiritual thoughts to produce an artifact spirit and a pagoda spirit. How can the Buddha activate this pagoda? Suddenly, the fire worship sect's Grand Supreme Elder asked in horror. The revered Buddha can only activate this pagoda once, and I'm afraid he will pass away. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva's face was filled with sorrow. After hesitating for a long time, he suddenly knelt on the ground and cried loudly. The pagoda's artifact spirit was very weak. It would be very difficult to activate it with dharmic powers. To put it bluntly, he was just a rough embryo. However, this pagoda was indeed powerful. It could surpass a spirit treasure and reach the level of a true weapon. If it was not used, it could be refined by 3 generations of Buddha's chanting. It could turn thousands of Buddhist thoughts into a great aspiration and become an artifact spirit. This way, the Golden Rock Temple could be suppressed forever, allowing the temple to prosper and prosper. However, now, he had no choice but to use this pagoda to deal with Jiang Tian. How could the Buddha nature Bodhisattva not be sad? After all, the Buddha was only in the nascent soul realm. He was not a true nascent soul realm cultivator. If he forcefully activated this artifact spirit, he would be severely injured and die. At the very least, his divine powers would be exhausted. Bodhisattva, in order to quell this disaster, in order to extinguish the karmic fire that you created, the revered one has risked his life. A Bodhisattva said with a solemn expression. At this moment, the Buddhist pagoda spanned across the heavens and the earth. Every illusory image of the gods and Buddhas shone brightly. The Buddhist pagoda also emitted 10,000 rays of golden light. It was huge and heavy. The vast and vigorous Buddhist light gathered at the bottom of the Buddhist pagoda, drawing out a golden arc in the air like a golden dragon soaring into the sky. This kind of power was too shocking, too spectacular, and too huge. It didn't look like a Buddhist divine skill or a Dharma artifact attack at all. It was as if Mount Buzhou was falling down. It had already surpassed the limits of human strength. Countless people within a few hundred li were astounded by the sight, and their hearts were pounding rapidly. Countless people kowtowed in the direction of Thunder Mountain and the Golden Rock Temple, saying that the Buddha Lord had shown up and that Tathagata had shown his power by vanquishing demons. Even Maolin City, which was thousands of miles away, saw this scene. After all, they were high up in the sky, and the Buddha's light shone brightly. It was as if Mars had crashed into Earth, and it could be seen from far away. This is the legendary 10,000 Buddha Sarira Pagoda of the 20 heavens. This will be a fierce battle for the Taichu sect leader. In an instant, Tang Linglong, Yi Karen, Lady Wu, Fairy Luo Mei, Mao Bohu, Mao Hongdai, Fan Xiuzhu, and the others were worried for Jiang Tian. They didn't know if Jiang Tian could withstand it. If we win this battle, the Changshan sect will soar like a dragon. If we lose, we'll be doomed forever. The Grand Elder's face was pale and his body was shaking. He knew that with his power as a perfected golden core cultivator, he would be crushed and his divine soul would be destroyed if he faced the Sarira Pagoda. Taichu's sect leader, 300,000 Yan Huang tribe members looked at the Buddhist pagoda solemnly, anxiously and shockingly. They were full of gratitude and respect for Jiang Tian in their hearts. In order to win a chance for the Yan Huang tribe, the Taichu sect leader had risked universal condemnation to kill his way to the immortal Golden Rock Temple and punch Tathagata. How great of a favor was this? How much courage was this? How could they not be grateful and full of admiration? At this time, above Arhat Mountain. Tathagata, you have a trump card, but how do you know that I don't? Jiang Tian clasped his hands behind his back, looking at the huge Buddhist pagoda rising into the air, his face calm. This Buddhist pagoda was formed from tens of thousands of golden core saraira. It was extremely heavy, like a dozen Himalayas falling together. Kang Te Chu, today, you and your Dharma idol can die under the saraira pagoda. It is also your glory. Tathagata's face was ugly, and he seemed to be struggling. Large beads of sweat appeared on his forehead. To a nascent soul cultivator, to a revered Buddha who was well versed in all methods, this was unimaginable. This Saraira pagoda was immeasurably heavy and immeasurable. Some were even worried that this Saraira pagoda would pierce through West Earth. Do you think I only have 5 godly forms? Facing the overwhelming pressure, Jiang Tian's face was full of mockery. He shook his head lightly, as though he was the one who had victory in his hands. I use this Buddhist pagoda to suppress you, demon, to comfort the millions of souls sacrificed in Maolin City. With each word, Tathagata's Buddhist light dimmed a little, and the 9 Buddhist light rings behind his head disappeared one by one. In the end, all of his Buddhist light disappeared, and he was almost like a mortal. His face was ashen, and his heavenly decay. But he was not sad at all. Instead, he was full of joy. This kid is too demonic. Only by killing him can West Earth be safe. I don't fear death. Tathagata of Golden Rock Temple believed that in the entire West Earth, and even the ruins of immortality, few nascent soul heavenly lords could withstand the attack of the Saraira pagoda. If there really was, it should be a soul formation grand cultivator. But he had heard that there hadn't been a soul formation overlord in the ruins of immortality for tens of thousands of years. Jiang Tian used the thick earth divine chains to suppress his power, but even so, he was only a false core cultivator. He was a false core cultivator with all 5 elements, but he wasn't a nascent soul cultivator or soul formation cultivator. Then, he could only die. Tathagata suddenly spat out blood. The golden blood turned into a golden Buddhist spell and hit the Saraira pagoda. Boom! The Saraira pagoda suddenly sped up and broke the sound barrier. It fell like a giant meteorite, creating flames in the air and suppressing Jiang Tian. Fine, I'll show you my trump card. Jiang Tian burst into laughter and cast a Dharma art. The thick earth dragon immediately expanded. It was only a few hundred feet long at first, but then it had reached 10,000 feet. How long was 10,000 feet? About 30 kilometers. It could wrap around Arhat Mountain a few times and was several times longer than the pagoda. How is that possible? How could he form such a terrifying Dharma form? The Arhat's eyes were glazed over and he started to tremble. Thick Earth Dragon. This is the real Thick Earth Dragon. Danger. The others were shocked and couldn't believe it. They quickly retreated dozens of kilometers. The thick earth dragon was still growing. The galaxy crystal sand and the chaotic source rock in his dantian kept releasing thick earth chi, which filled his body and kept expanding, as if there was no end to it. Moreover, the aura of thick earth was mixed with the primordial aura of chaos, and it was too heavy. It pressed down upon all the spectators to the point they felt as if their bones were on the verge of collapse, and they were unable to hold on and were on the verge of collapse. They ran very fast and were still 10 kilometers away from the thick earth dragon, but it was still so unbearable. Tathagata and the Saraira pagoda were facing the thick earth dragon. My friend, please wait. We can have a good talk. Tathagata saw this and he had a bad feeling. He quickly waved his hand and shouted. It's too late. You and I have already talked on the Golden Peak. Jiang Tian snorted and waved his sleeves. The khaki-colored dragon flew up and grabbed the chaotic source rock from his dantian and smashed it down on the Sarira pagoda. Clang! An earth-shattering sound exploded in the sky as if dozens of nuclear bombs had exploded at the same time. In the sky, mushroom clouds bloomed rapidly at the point of collision, forming rings of clouds that expanded outwards. In an instant, they spread out for 10 kilometers, 100 kilometers, 200 kilometers. They still didn't slow down. In the vast West Earth, it was as though a huge earthquake had erupted. Every inch of land and mountain was trembling, and every corner could hear it clearly. What's going on? Earthquake? Meteorites falling from the sky. Why would meteorites appear in Golden Rock Temple? Tathagata can destroy them with a flick of his finger. Thunder and Buddha light appeared in the direction of Golden Rock Temple. I heard that it was Tathagata. Is the end of the world coming? At that moment, billions of living beings in West Earth raised their heads and looked towards Golden Rock Temple. They were nervous and uneasy as they discussed fervently. Many people prostrated on the ground and kowtowed continuously, begging the Buddhas and Tathagata to protect the world and not destroy it. Clang! Clang! Violent collisions sounded again and again. The sound waves were terrifying and shook the world. Air currents surged and swept through the world like a hurricane. The scales on the heavenly dragon fell off and its dragon horns broke. It spat out blood and then collapsed. It was only formed from a dozen golden core relics while the Buddhist pagoda was formed from 10,000 relics. How could it withstand the might of the Buddhist pagoda? In Golden Rock Temple, many eminent monks were the first to bear the brunt and spat out blood. Hundreds of cultivators who came to participate in the nude meet were reduced to dust. They were only at early stage foundation establishment or chi refinement and could not withstand it at all. Many of the protective mountain arrays shattered in an instant. Half of the Arhat mountain below was smashed into rubble by the impact. The sky formed by the boundless spatial barrier suddenly shook and huge funnel-shaped craters with a radius of 10 miles caved in. With the crater as a circle, the sky rippled outwards like water ripples, as if it was about to be annihilated and shattered. Even the sun suddenly dimmed, and the world turned dark. Spatial cracks densely covered the world. It was pitch black and very dim. The air currents were chaotic like a long river and nothing could be seen clearly. Will the revered one win? Everyone's faces were pale and their eyes were filled with worry. At that moment, everyone's divine senses could not penetrate the battlefield. The dermic powers and divine abilities in the battlefield were too vigorous and dense. They were as heavy as mountains and filled the space. Chapter 1177. With the point of impact as the epicenter, monstrous waves swept out in all directions. The people who were watching the battle in the sky were like fallen leaves in the wind. They were pushed 10 miles away before they could stabilize themselves. For the people in the mortal world, all of this was too far away. They couldn't influence the battle between the top experts. This was a battle between orthodoxies, so they could only resign themselves to it. They would take a look, talk about it, and then forget about it. However, for the people watching from above Mount Luohan, there was a great battle going on there and the result would affect the fate of many sects and even the fate of Earth and West Land. Who won and who lost? At this moment, a huge question mark appeared in the hearts of the spectators. The revered one will definitely win. The Bodhisattva clenched his fists. No one knew if he was saying it to himself or to others. From my point of view, Tathagata is also superior. That's a relic pagoda made of 10,000 sariras. It can kill nascent soul cultivators and golden core cultivators like chickens. Who can resist it? Shaolin Yu looked cold, but his tone was firm. He knew a little about the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda. The Dharma power and divine powers of the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda were too powerful and they were all Buddhist divine powers. It wasn't something that an evil cultivator like Kang Taichu could compare to. That's right. In my opinion, Jiang Taichu's Dharma idol is quite ferocious. It can even expand to 30 miles long. However, the bigger the Dharma idol, the more powerful it is. Most of the time, it's too big for its own good. Huiyan, the Grand Elder of the Fire Worship Sect, said seriously. I think the energy of his Earth Dragon is far less powerful than that of the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda. That's made of the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda. Huiyan was also an experienced peak stage Golden Core cultivator and was on the same level as the former Tathagata. In terms of seniority, he was even higher than the current Tathagata. He was also the most powerful person present, second only to the Tathagata. He was even more powerful than the 3 sect masters. He was knowledgeable and knowledgeable. Since he had said so, no one dared to question him. It was as if he had given everyone a reassuring pill. The Revered One has won. The Revered One of the world has slain the demons and created supreme merit. For a moment, the tens of thousands of monks of Golden Rock Temple in the sky and on the ground rushed to spread the news. They cheered as if it was the new year. Kang Te-Chu is, after all, an ant from Earth. His orthodoxy has been severed. How can he be compared to the Buddha's great supernatural power? In the end, his foundation is too weak, and he doesn't have any powerful magic treasures. Once the Buddha of Great Prosperity and the myriad Buddha Relic Pagoda appeared, they could pierce through the continent and sweep through the universe. Could he compare? Kang Te-Chu got what he deserved. Buddhists are merciful, and Tathagata Buddha is benevolent. He had already expressed that he wanted to punish the son of Buddha, but he insisted on being overbearing and killed people in Buddhists. Datong was the Dharma name of the current Tathagata. At this moment, many people were comparing Datong Tathagata, the founder of Golden Rock Temple, and the famous Lotus Tathagata in history. You don't know when to advance or retreat. Look at you now, you've lost your life. This is a frog at the bottom of a well. He doesn't know how big the sky is, and he thinks he can challenge the Buddha Lord after killing Ming Rui. Ha! Ming Rui is just an evil cultivator. How can he be compared to Tathagata Buddha? Many people who came to watch the ceremony were in high spirits. They worshipped Tathagata and insulted Jiang Tian. After hearing Grand Elder Huiyan's words, the beautiful man also heaved a sigh of relief and was about to nod. He saw Huiyan next to him look at the sky as if he had seen a ghost. His eyes were filled with fear. He quickly scanned the chaos in the sky with his immortal will. He saw the remnants of the Dharma power and divine powers slowly dissipating. The pagoda was already gone. A thick earth dragon about a few hundred feet long soared in the sky. A young man with black hair and black eyes stood on the dragon's head with his hands behind his back. His white robe was spotless as he walked on the dragon. Endless divine light shone in his eyes, as if he was looking down on the world like a god. It was Jiang Tian. In an instant, silence fell. Everyone turned pale and lost their voices. Their mouths were wide open, but they couldn't make the slightest sound. Kang Te-Chu. Everyone looked at Jiang Tian, who was standing on a dragon, in shock. They couldn't believe what they were seeing. Tathagata had activated the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda, and the winner was bound to be Tathagata. How could it be Kang Te-Chu? Kang Te-Chu, where is the Revered One? The Buddha Nature Bodhisattva turned pale with fright. He was so angry that he approached Jiang Tian and asked loudly. Buddha Nature Bodhisattva, the Revered One has passed away in order to save your life. Now, no one can protect you. How dare you talk to me like this? Jiang Tian's eyes were disdainful, and his face was cold. Everyone was stunned to the extreme. They stood there like clay statues. Huiyan was even more dumbfounded. He couldn't believe it. But he didn't know. Although Tathagata had activated the pagoda and unleashed the power of 10,000 golden cores, Jiang Tian's earth-winged dragon contained the primal chaos source cauldron and galactic crystal sand. Not to mention the power of the primal chaos source cauldron, just the Dharma power of 1 grain of galactic crystal sand was as strong as a star, far surpassing that of a golden core. Moreover, there were billions of galactic crystal sand. How could the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda compare to it? The energy was poured into the earth-winged dragon's dantian. Because it belonged to the earth element, it could be transformed into the Earth-winged dragon's body at any time. Therefore, the Earth-winged dragon instantly swung the primal chaos source cauldron and smashed the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda. As for Tathagata, he used all his strength to activate the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda. After using it, his entire body was devoured by the vast and complicated Buddhist thoughts in the pagoda. He was like a lamp that had run out of oil and was like an ordinary person. The Earth-winged dragon just swept its tail and he turned into a rain of crystal-clear flesh. He couldn't stop Jiang Tian at all. What? Tathagata has passed away. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva looked as if he had been struck by lightning. His face turned pale and he couldn't believe it. He stumbled backward. He used to be a good-for-nothing prince of the Golden Feather dynasty who was enlightened by the previous Tathagata and accepted into the Golden Rock Temple. However, the current Tathagata had brought him up single-handedly. He treated Tathagata like a parent. In his mind, Tathagata was an omnipotent being. He thought that with Tathagata's protection, Jiang Tian wouldn't be able to do anything to him. But now, Tathagata had been killed by Jiang Tian. Bastard! You killed Tathagata. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva's first reaction wasn't fear, but anger, as if his father had been killed. Die! Jiang Tian's face turned cold. The Earth-winged dragon reached out its giant claws and grabbed the Buddha nature Bodhisattva like an eagle grabbing a chick. It then stuffed it into its mouth. How dare you kill me? My secular identity is the crown prince of the Golden Feather dynasty. I still have. Awe! The Buddha nature Bodhisattva screamed, but he didn't have the strength to struggle. Blood splattered, and his torso broke. The two emotionless abstinence blades that had once pierced through the West Earth pugilistic world were torn apart like paper. In the end, his physical body and Jindan were swallowed alive by the Earth-winged dragon. When everyone saw this, they were so frightened that their faces turned ashen. They trembled as if a bucket of ice water had been poured over them. They felt cold from head to toe. A perfected Jindan core Bodhisattva had been swallowed alive. If they hadn't seen it with their own eyes, they wouldn't have believed it. Jiang Tian's strength had already exceeded their imagination. Originally, if you had committed suicide, Tathagata wouldn't have died. There was also no need to destroy the 10,000 Buddha relic pagoda. Jiang Tian's face was cold. Although the Buddha nature Bodhisattva had the title of Bodhisattva, in order to force Jiang Tian to surrender and to ascend to the position of Tathagata, he had gathered an army of 1,000,000 and wanted to kill 300,000 Yan Huang tribesmen and 1,000,000 innocent citizens of Maolin City. He was greedy for power and profit, greedy for grandiose achievements, selfish, hypocritical, and even more evil than Ming Rui. He deserved to die. Are you all convinced? Jiang Tian scanned the crowd. An incomparably dense and vast earthen aura came crashing down like a raging wave. It was as heavy as a mountain. Grand Elder Huayan, Huafenchen, Shaolingyu, Mei Jiaonan. These sect master-level experts who could cause the earth to tremble with a stomp of their feet lowered their heads, not daring to look at Jiang Tian. How dare you start a massacre in the sacred grounds of the Buddhist sections? You even killed Tathagata and destroyed the relic pagoda. Ah! Some bodhisattvas and arhats were still unconvinced and glared at Jiang Tian. But Jiang Tian's earthen aura came crashing down like a mountain. Their knees buckled and they knelt on the ground. Even the Buddha nature Bodhisattva could not face Jiang Tian's aura directly, let alone these mid and late Jindan experts. In the end, no one dared to look at Jiang Tian. They all lowered their arrogant heads. I used to think that the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata, with his profound dharma and mystique, was already at the top of the cultivators after ruling the West Earth for hundreds of years. Until today, when I saw Kong Techu destroy 20,000 Buddha relic pagoda, suppress the 8-division heavenly dragon, and kill Tathagata, I finally know what it means to be truly invincible. On the Golden Peak, the Sword Palace disciple Zhang Wen also lowered his head, not daring to look at Jiang Tian. But his eyes were full of admiration and shock. He did not have a deep relationship with the Golden Rock Temple. He only believed in Buddhism because the Golden Rock Temple was very strong and could be protected. At this moment, he discovered that Jiang Tian was even stronger, so strong that he couldn't imagine it. He couldn't help but respect Jiang Tian to the extreme, wanting nothing more than to immediately betray his sect and follow behind Jiang Tian. As for the Sword Palace Lord Wang Xianchao being killed, he had long forgotten about it. Whether the Sword Palace would continue to exist in the future was still a question. He had better join the Longevity sect. The Sword Palace elite disciple Leng Jianfeng also bowed in respect with a complicated expression. They were the same age and were cultivators. Moreover, Jiang Tian was from the Yan Huang tribe and came from the remote Earth world. But Jiang Tian had ascended to the top of the West Earth and suppressed the countless orthodoxies of the West Earth, making countless Jindan true immortals bow their heads. And he was just an elite disciple of a second-rate sect. What he said on the Golden Lotus platform was not exaggerated at all. People like us are just the light of a grain of rice. How can we compete with someone like him who is like the sun and moon? Leng Jianfeng sighed deeply with lingering fear. Back then, he had challenged Jiang Tian on the Golden Lotus platform in order to help Prince Mo Yang. But he had immediately been frightened by Jiang Tian into kneeling and begging for mercy, and Jiang Tian had spared him. After that, many people used this to mock him. Kneeling without a fight was the act of a coward, and he also felt that it was the shame of his life. But at this moment, he felt that kneeling was only natural, and there was nothing shameful about it. To be able to exchange blows with Kang Taechu, even if he had been forced to kneel and beg for mercy, was a great honor. Chapter 1178. At that moment, things weren't over in the sky. Shaolin. Jiang Tian stood on the head of the dragon with his hands clasped behind his back. His long robe fluttered in the wind. He looked down at Shaolin Yu and said coldly, Southern Land and Tingyu Tower were the main forces in the Demon Suppression Army when we attacked Maolin City. Moreover, when we invaded Earth, Tingyu Floor also had a part in it. Shaolin Yu trembled and knelt down in the sky. He said with a trembling voice, I'm sorry. I'm willing to support the Taichu sect master as the Venerable of West Earth. Please spare my life. He was cold and arrogant. He was also a genius and was the tower master of Tingyu Tower, one of the top orthodoxies in West Earth. However, Jiang Tian had destroyed the 8-division heavenly dragon Dharma form, Tathagata, and even the 20 heavens 1000 Buddha relic pagoda were destroyed. He was just a golden core perfected stage cultivator. How could he be Jiang Tian's opponent? Not only him, but the higher-ups of Tingyu Tower, including the Grand Elders, all knelt down in front of Jiang Tian and trembled. Even Tathagata and the 20 heavens 1000 Buddha relic pagoda couldn't suppress Jiang Tian. In this world, Kang Taechu was already invincible. Taichu's sect master, we're willing to worship you as the Venerable of World. You can control Golden Rock Temple and suppress West Earth. Please let Tingyu Tower go. They were all horrified. One after another, they expressed their loyalty and fought to be the first. He was afraid that if he was a second late, he would be killed by Jiang Tian just like the Buddha. The entire Tingyu Tower might even be killed by Jiang Tian. With Jiang Tian's power, destroying a sect or a country was as easy as snapping his fingers. Hui Yen took a step forward and knelt on the ground. He said loudly, Fire Worship Sect is willing to worship the Taichu sect master as the Venerable of World. No one dares to disobey your orders. Grand Elder. Hu Burning Heaven's face was filled with sorrow, anger, and resentment. However, Hui Yen didn't care at all. He even handed over the fiery lotus token of his sect and said respectfully and fearfully, Taichu's sect master, this is the fire lotus token. When the disciples of the sect see this token, it is as if they have seen a true god. I will give this token to the Taichu World Venerable in hopes that the Taichu World Venerable will give my sect a way out. This Grand Elder had been prepared for both sides from the start. If Jiang Tian lost, that would be the best. If he won, he would directly hand over the sect token. He would do it even more thoroughly than he did the Golden Rock Temple of Buddhism. He only wanted to protect his descendants. After all, the fire worship sect was only second to the Golden Rock Temple. It was much more powerful than the Tingyu Tower and the Hehuan sect. Once the token was handed over, Jiang Tian would be in control of both the Longevity sect and the Sect of Flame. Even if the Golden Rock Temple refused to accept it, they would have the strength to suppress it. Although Huo Fengchen was heartbroken, he did not dare to say a word. Not enough. No one had expected that Jiang Tian would spit out 2 words with a cold tone and a cold look in his eyes. Grand Elder Huo Fengchen seemed to have thought of something, but the sadness on his face deepened. He coughed and said, "Taichu World Venerable, are you not going to let the Sect of Flame go easily?" Everyone's heart was pounding. Although Kang Taichu was powerful, the Sect of Flame was not for nothing. It was the second most powerful orthodoxy. If Kang Taichu insisted on exterminating the Sect of Flame, a battle with the Golden Rock Temple would be inevitable. It would cause great waves in the entire West Earth. Jiang Tian took a step forward and said, "I, Kang Taichu, may have killed all my life, but I will not implicate others. The Sect of Flame has the largest number of people and the strongest military force." Whose idea was it? You have to give me an explanation. Everyone looked at Huo Fengchen. Huo Fengchen was so frightened that he broke out in cold sweat. He staggered backward and shouted hysterically, "Although I wanted to go to war, none of you objected." "So it was you." Jiang Tian smiled and said. "Before this, you mocked me for being a member of the Yan Huang tribe and an ant on earth. Did you expect this moment? Taichu sect master, please spare my life." Huo Fengchen was no longer arrogant after being targeted by Jiang Tian. His face was pale and his body trembled. "Since the Sect of Flame is loyal to me, I'll take them. I'll only kill Huo Fengchen as a warning to others." Jiang Tian sneered and waved his hand. Immediately, the bright vermilion bird exploded with endless flames. Even though Huo Burning Heaven cultivated the red lotus earthly flame and had 9 fire dragons protecting his body, he still couldn't withstand it. As he screamed miserably, he was burned to ashes by Jiang Tian's fire. Even his flaming golden core turned into green smoke and dissipated. "I killed him. Do you have any objections?" Jiang Tian scanned the crowd and said coldly. Everyone's hair stood on end. Jiang Tian's move of killing a chicken to warn the monkeys was too powerful. Huo Fengchen was the sect master of the Sect of Flame and had the highest cultivation among his peers, except for Elder Huo Yan and a few living fossils. But Jiang Tian had killed him for everyone to see. "We have no objections. Huo Fengchen has gone against the law and bullied the good. He deserves to die." Huo Yan's face was full of respect as he said loudly, "If he's still alive, he'll definitely bring the fire worship sect to eternal damnation. The Taichu World Venerable is saving the Sect of Flame. The Taichu World Venerable has killed the evildoers and saved the people. The Hehuan sect supports him with both hands. The Taichu World Venerable is the most handsome." The beautiful young man also sang and danced, clapping his small jade-white hands, madly throwing flirtatious glances at Jiang Tian, and spoke in a coquettish voice. Behind him, many of the Joyful Union sect's grand elders, hall masters, and other important people all knelt down. The monks of the Golden Rock Temple also have no objections. Seeing this, the bodhisattvas, arhats and vajras of the Golden Rock Temple could only agree. Even Tathagata had been killed by Kang Taichu's Earth Dragon. Even the 8th Division Heavenly Dragon and the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda couldn't suppress Jiang Tian and were crushed. His combat power was too strong and violent. Even if the monks of the Golden Rock Temple attacked together, they wouldn't be able to defeat Jiang Tian's Earth Dragon. They would only be killed. Seeing this, many people grieved for the death of the rabbit and sighed deeply. After today, the title of Venerable of the World would no longer belong to the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata, but to the Longevity Sect Master. The Golden Rock Temple would no longer exist in West Earth. The reason why the Golden Rock Temple was famous in West Earth was because of the gods and monsters formed by the relics of the past Tathagata and the 10,000 Buddha Relic Pagoda. But now, They had all been destroyed by Jiang Tian. Without them, the Golden Rock Temple was nothing. However, even the Golden Rock Temple, which was the most powerful and had a deep hatred for Jiang Tian, had admitted defeat. What else could the others say? We have no objections. Let's respect the Taichu sect master as the venerable of the world. In an instant, the leaders of the large sects, clans, countries and cities in the world knelt down. They looked fearful and serious as if they had seen a real god. At this moment, the millions of people who participated in the naked meeting covered Mount Layin like ants. They all knelt down respectfully to Jiang Tian. None of them dared to look up and face Jiang Tian's supreme power. How is this possible? The Taichu sect master has already won. How can they call the Taichu sect master the venerable of the world? Has the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata been killed by him? Streaks of light pierced through the sky. They were the grand elder of the Changshan sect, by beard, Fairy Luo Mei, Mao Hongdai, Tang Linglong, Yi Karen and Lady Wu. They originally wanted to lend Jiang Tian a hand and fight a bloody battle. However, as soon as they arrived, they happened to see everyone at the banquet prostrating themselves in front of Jiang Tian. They couldn't help but be dumbstruck, unable to believe their eyes. The Golden Rock Temple was extremely powerful and they were holding a naked meeting. The overlords of the fire worship sect, Tingyu Tower, the Hehuan sect and thousands of other sects and countries were all there. There were so many overlords and golden core cultivators, but they were still defeated by Jiang Tian. This was too shocking, too inconceivable. Everyone was dumbfounded and couldn't say a word. February 2013, the Earth Era. Jiang Tian's golden rainbow came from the north and killed his way into the Golden Rock Temple. He broke through the myriad Buddha relic pagoda, annihilated the 8 divisions of heavenly dragons and divine monsters, killed Tathagata, killed the Arhat, and suppressed the thousands of sects in West Earth. He was called the Venerable of the World. The world was shocked when the news spread. Have you heard the news at the naked meeting? Yes, but it's nonsense. The dignified Golden Rock Temple had been suppressed. Even the true Buddha and the Buddha nature Bodhisattva had been killed. This was simply impossible. Who doesn't know that Tathagata is proficient in all methods and possesses remarkable abilities? He is the revered one of this world. I didn't believe it at first, but the elders who went to the naked meeting saw it with their own eyes. They told us to change our hall and worship the Taichu Lord. What? Billions of people in the vast territory were shocked. The news of what had happened on the Thunder Sound Mountain first reached the Zhengshan Kingdom at the foot of the mountain. Then, like a hurricane, it spread out from the Zhengshan Kingdom to the Grand Middle Territory, the East, West, South, North, and South territories, including many sects, countries, and cities. Countless people couldn't believe it when they heard the news. The Golden Rock Temple was high above and had ruled West Earth for tens of thousands of years. Generations of Tathagata were powerful and invincible. How could they be defeated so easily? Moreover, he had been crushed by a Jiang Taichu from the Earth realm, an ant from the Yan Huang continent. This was the biggest joke in the world. At first, many people didn't believe it and thought it was a rumor. But soon, the eminent monks of the Golden Rock Temple went down the mountain and went to countries, cities, sects and families to inform them that the Golden Rock Temple's Tathagata had passed away, and the new lord of the world was Kang Taichu. At this time, no matter how shocked and unacceptable they were, they had to accept it. A monk can become Tathagata. That's strange. This is the first time I've heard of it. What do you mean by passing away? This was a glorified name. They must have been killed by Jiang Taichu. This Taichu Lord of the World is terrifying. He even killed Tathagata. Everyone felt their hair stand on end. How is that possible? A mere Yan Huang tribesman actually suppressed us ancient Tianzhu. It must be a conspiracy. I heard he's from Earth. Earth's spiritual qi is sparse. That's the nest of beasts. Ants live there. The middle and lower class tribes of West Earth were still unwilling to accept it. In the past, They had trampled on the Yan Huang tribesmen like ants. How could they allow a Yan Huang tribesman to become their Tathagata, the Lord of the world? Just wait and see. He won't be able to hold the position of the Lord of the world. Let alone the Golden Rock Temple, the Fire Worship Sect, Tingyu Floor, and Hehuan Sect, which one of them is easy to deal with? Which of those countries and cities are easy to provoke? Although some people had accepted the fact that Jiang Tian had become the Lord of the world, they thought that Jiang Tian's good days wouldn't last long and he would soon be in trouble. They were looking forward to it and even secretly praying that someone would jump out and raise the flag of rebellion to overthrow Kang Te-Chu from his throne. For example, the Jinyu dynasty, where the Buddha nature Arhat lived before he became a monk. He was the crown prince of that dynasty. Chapter 1179. Southern Border, Golden Wing Nation. The Golden Wing Emperor ordered the execution of the families of those who had spread the news. He said, deceiving the masses with lies. My Buddha nature's son will become Tathagata and dominate this world. You are trying to shake the foundation of my Golden Wing Nation. Before he could finish speaking, a swallow with golden feathers flew in front of him. He raised his hand to catch the golden feather swallow and took out a letter. After reading it for a moment, he was completely stunned and stood there in a daze. Beside him, Sect Master Ding of a large cultivation sect from Golden Wing Nation bowed and asked, Emperor, what is the news? Sect Master Ding's son had also participated in the expedition to Maolin City and was killed in the battle. He hated Jiang Tian to the core. Before the Golden Wing Emperor could answer, he laughed disdainfully. That Kang Te-Chu must have died in Golden Rock Temple. Ha, a mere ant from Yan Huang. No, he is not even an ant. How dare he provoke the Buddhist sect and face Tathagata directly? He won't even know how he died. Many ministers, city lords, and cultivators were watching with anticipation and nervousness on their faces. This swallow with golden feathers was used by the Buddha nature Bodhisattva to communicate with the Golden Wing Nation. It was a spiritual bird that could break through the void and travel thousands of miles in an instant. The Golden Wing Emperor came to his senses and trembled. Tears filled his eyes as he said in a trembling voice, Tathagata has been killed. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva has perished. Kang Te-Chu has become the revered one of the West lands. What? The Buddha nature Bodhisattva is really dead? The entire palace was shaken. All the important members and cultivators were dumbfounded. They could not believe it. At this moment, many people were filled with regret. The Buddha nature Bodhisattva had attacked Jiang Tian because he was wary and afraid of Jiang Tian. How could he allow someone else to sleep beside him? But in truth, the Golden Feather dynasty also played a significant role. The Golden Wing Nation was bordered by the Grand Middle Territory and the Jinshan Nation. The Jinshan Nation and the entire Grand Middle Territory belonged to the Buddhist nation. In other words, the Golden Wing Nation could not invade the Jinshan Nation and the Grand Middle Territory. Therefore, the Jinyu state set their sights on the Changxing sect and the northern region. With Jiang Tian gone and the Changshan sect defeated, the four countries in the north all belonged to the Jinyu dynasty. Therefore, they had once persuaded the Buddha nature Arhat to attack Jiang Tian. At this moment, they could not help but feel endless regret. How could they not have seen that the Yan Huang tribe ant was so strong? This Kang Te-Chu had not only killed the Buddha with Buddha nature, he had even killed the Tathagata of the present age. He had really gone for wool and come home shorn. Without the backing of the Arhat and the Golden Rock Temple, the Jinyu dynasty would probably become an ant at the mercy of others. Kang Te-Chu, a mere Yan Huang tribe member, dares to kill my beloved son. I will definitely tear him to pieces and avenge him. The emperor of Jinyu country roared with tears in his eyes. Hate. Endless hatred, monstrous hatred. He gritted his teeth so hard that they almost broke. A mere ant from the Earth world, a mere Yan Huang tribe member, had actually killed his brilliant son. Sect leader Ding was also furious. He said coldly, Kang Te-Chu, damn it. You must tear him to pieces. But the others did not speak. They felt a chill in their hearts. Kang Tae-chu had even killed the Tathagata and suppressed the Golden Rock Temple. What was a mere Jinyu dynasty to him? Any more resistance would be like hitting a rock with an egg. Just as the civil officials were about to remonstrate, a mocking voice rang out. Suddenly, a mocking voice was heard. Everyone, have you asked the fire worship sect if you want to kill the Taichu world venerate? Rumble. A fire dragon rushed in and then turned into a fiery figure. The fire worship sect's grand elder, Hui Yan. Senior Hui Yan, what do you mean? My son has a Buddha nature and was very close to your fire worship sect leader, Hu Fenshin. The emperor of Jinyu was shocked. He had come with ill intentions. Oh, Hu Fenshin is no longer the sect leader. The sect leader is me now, and I'm here to kill you. Hui Yan laughed. The emperor of Jinyu's face stiffened, and cold sweat broke out on his forehead. But he forced a smile. Hui Yan, you are so bold. Don't you know that my son has a Buddha nature and is good friends with Shaolin Yu of the Tingyu Tower and the pretty boys of the Hehuan sect? You are so funny. Hui Yan revealed a mocking smile and said, don't you know that when a wall is down, everyone kicks it, and when a tree falls, monkeys scatter? The Buddha nature is no longer your backer, but a disaster. Take a look. A mist-like drizzle fell from the sky. Shaolin Yu, who was escorted by a few elders, suddenly appeared and said coldly, don't worry about it. Emperor, I will send you on your way. My sword of cold rain is fast. You will not feel pain. What? You are here to kill me too? Have you forgotten? The emperor of Jinyu country finally revealed a look of deep fear and panic. He staggered back and couldn't even stand steadily. Facing the threat of death, he could not bear it as the ruler of a country. He was no longer as brave and domineering as before. Shaolin Yu stood with her arms crossed, her eyes cold and emotionless. Emperor, don't blame me for being merciless. Blame the Buddha nature for being so ambitious and seeking his own death by provoking the Taichu world revered one. The emperor of Jinyu could not take it anymore. He was scared witless, kneeling on the ground and begging for mercy. Tower Master Ling Yu, sect leader Hui Yan, on account of our past drinking and chatting, please spare my life. I can destroy my own cultivation, change my name, and never participate in the struggle. The Taichu world revered one said that your Jinyu dynasty once trampled on the people of Yan Huang tribe and enslaved them. Your crimes are unforgivable. A coquettish voice sounded. It was neither male nor female, like the voice of a duck. Needless to say, it was the pretty boys. The pretty boys held a mirror and looked at themselves from time to time. They were flirtatious, but their words were cold. Your Jinyu dynasty, young and old, men and women, must all die. Not a single one can be left alive. Tell me, which one should I start with? You. Not leaving a single descendant. Kang Tae-chu is so ruthless and overbearing. He even calls himself the Taichu world revered one and is worshipped by others. How shameless. The emperor of Jinyu suddenly stood up, unable to restrain his anger. An earth-shattering aura was released. He seemed to be unwilling to be killed. A great battle was about to break out. When your Jinyu dynasty carried out the genocide policy, when the Buddha nature gathered an army to attack Maolin City, why didn't you say that you were ruthless and overbearing? Remember, those who kill will be killed. A clear and cold voice drifted over. Falling petals were everywhere, and a celestial aura filled the air. Fairy Luo Mei's beautiful face was otherworldly and devastatingly beautiful. She arrived under the moonlight, and her clear eyes were filled with mockery. Greetings, disciple of the Taichu world revered one. Hui Yan, Shaolin Yu, and the pretty boys all bowed to Fairy Luo Mei. They were meticulous and extremely humble. In the past, in terms of cultivation and status, they were peerless sect masters and realm-suppressing giants. How could they take a mere Fairy Luo Mei seriously? However, things were different now. Fairy Luo Mei was Jiang Tian's favorite person. They didn't dare to slight her. Fairy Luo Mei was here to inspect the operation on behalf of Jiang Tian. She was also high and mighty. She smiled coldly and said, "Cut the crap. Just kill them. Run. Where there's life, there's hope. As long as I'm alive, I can reproduce and rebuild my dynasty. 100 years later, 1,000 years later, I'll have the chance to destroy Earth, kill Jiang Taichu, and take my revenge." Seeing this, the Emperor of Jinyu knew that the situation was hopeless. He shook his arms and suddenly, golden wings appeared under his ribs. Surrounded by lightning, he rushed out of the hall like a thunderclap. "Sigh, Jinyu, you're too stupid. You still want to run? Don't you know how strong I am?" Hui Yan sneered and waved his hand. Suddenly, a giant flame dragon soared into the sky and wrapped around the Emperor of Jinyu tightly. He couldn't break free at all. "Hui Yan, do you know the saying that the hound is cooked after the rabbit is killed? It's useless if you kill me. Kang Taichu won't let you go." The Emperor of Jinyu panicked and tried to persuade them. However, Hui Yan had already gently urged the red lotus hellfire to burn. Boom! The Emperor of Jinyu exploded like a ball of bright fireworks. Countless flames and sparks splashed over a radius of more than 30 meters. Before the Emperor of Jinyu died, his face was filled with disbelief. It was as if he didn't expect that he would die so miserably. He also didn't expect that the foundation of his Jinyu family would be destroyed in a day. At this moment, the entire hall was terrified. Countless sect masters, officials, and generals of the Jinyu nation were trembling uneasily. They lowered their heads and bowed, not daring to face the sharpness of these murderous gods. Sect Master Ding knelt for a long time to show his submission. He was afraid that he would be implicated. The ones who had come to kill were all peerless sect masters. Back then, they were on par with the Bodhisattva. They were only golden core and foundation establishment cultivators. How could they dare to face them head-on? "We won't kill anyone else. We'll only kill the culprit. Get lost." Fairy Luo Mei flicked her finger and exploded Sect Master Ding's head. This was called killing one to warn the others. Just exterminating the Jinyu family was enough, but the other people were already scared out of their wits. The officials and experts felt as if they had been pardoned. They were grateful and left in a hurry. After they left, Hui Yan and the others immediately started a massacre. The entire palace was set on fire. Sword chi filled the air, and killing was everywhere within 100 miles. The fire burned for 3 days before it was extinguished. The entire palace was filled with screams. Countless members of the Jinyu royal family were beheaded. No one escaped, and their family was exterminated. The news spread. The entire southern land and even the entire West Earth trembled and couldn't eat or sleep. This Taichu world overlord wasn't as easy to talk to as Tathagata. He would take revenge for the smallest grievance. The factions that received the news were completely intimidated. They knelt down in fear and didn't dare to say anything else. Chapter 1180. In the north, in the Cloud Mist Kingdom, within Lush Forest City. Did our Taichu sect leader die in battle or win? Why isn't he back yet? Mao Bohu tugged at the beard of the Grand Elder and asked anxiously. Beside him were a few elders and youths from the Yan Huang tribe. They were all important officials of the Cloud Mist Kingdom. The Cloud Mist Kingdom not only provided a place for the Yan Huang tribe to reside, but also respected them. Anyone with both ability and integrity would be put to good use. He won. It's true. I saw it with my own eyes. Country Emperor Mao, why don't you believe me? The white-bearded elder said respectfully. Mao Bohu was now the king of the Cloud Mist Kingdom. Actually, this status meant nothing to the white-bearded elder. As the Grand Elder of the Longevity sect, he would even dare to kill the king of a country. The key was that Mao Bohu was the first to follow Jiang Tian to conquer the world. He was an important person in the eyes of the Taichu world-revered one. From this perspective, the white-bearded elder did not dare to slight Mao Bohu in the slightest. He could only treat him with double the respect. Seeing the white-bearded elder so serious, they finally dared to believe him. They had seen Jiang Tian's strength. But after all, in the eyes of the Yan Huang tribe, Golden Rock Temple's Datong Rulai was a true dragon god in the heavens, unshakable. It was hard to accept at this moment. But shortly after, the fire worship sect, Tingyu Pavilion, Hehuan sect, Golden Rock Temple, and other sects and orthodoxies that had bullied the Yan Huang tribe before rushed to Maolin City to pay their respects to the bronze statue of Jiang Tian and the old elders of the Yan Huang tribe. Country Emperor Mao Bohu had already given the order to build a huge temple in lush forest city. It was called the Taichu World Revered One Palace. Lush forest city was packed to the brim. On the streets and in the plaza, there was a crowd of people, mostly Yan Huang tribe members. The Yan Huang tribe's tribe leaders, family heads, and elders were seated before the bronze statue of the Taichu World Revered One Palace. And many sect leaders and country emperors came to the Taichu World Revered One Palace. They were extremely respectful, not daring to make a sound. They immediately bowed respectfully and apologized sincerely. As for the city lords and sect leaders of small sects, they did not even have the right to enter the main hall. They knelt in the plaza, kowtowing like pounding garlic. Everyone who had come to watch the ceremony was shocked when they saw this. They did not dare to say a word. Even the new sect leader of the fire worship sect, Hui Yan, has knelt down. Elders and seniors, the Yan Huang tribe has produced a true dragon. I'm afraid that after today, the fire worship sect and the entire fiery desert will be in your care. After kowtowing, Hui Yan came before the Yan Huang tribe elders. He bowed in a servile manner, deeply moved. He was a veteran Jindan cultivator, a titan of the current age, and a peerless sect leader. Yet he did not dare to slight these Yan Huang tribe elders, and even had to treat them with respect. Our ancestors have blessed us. The Taichu World Revered One has descended. Our Yan Huang tribe can finally stand up. Countless Yan Huang tribe members saw this and wept tears of joy. While the entire West Earth was stirred by Jiang Tian's ascension to the position of the World Revered One, Jiang Tian was sitting on a golden lotus seat in the Golden Peak 10,000 Buddha Hall of the Golden Rock Temple. This lotus seat was made of pure gold essence and was priceless. Jiang Tian lay lazily on it, resting his chin on his hand and chatting with his officials. Beside him, Tang Linglong was brewing tea, Mao Hongdai was fanning herself, and Fairy Luo Mei was feeding Jiang Tian a grape. On the Golden Summit, the sect masters, sect leaders, monarchs, and city lords had all left. Only Whitebeard, Hui Yan, Xiao Lingyu, Mei Jiaonan, and a few other important figures remained. Originally, the upper echelons of the Golden Rock Temple had wanted to hold the ascension ceremony here, but Jiang Tian had rejected them. In his opinion, all these fame and fortune were nothing more than illusory floating clouds that weren't worth mentioning. Therefore, Jiang Tian had them come to Maolin City to pay their respects to the bronze statue. They call him the World Revered One, but he's addicted to beauty and pleasure. He doesn't look like the World Revered One at all. Sigh, the Buddhist sect is unfortunate, the Buddhist sect is unfortunate. Seeing Jiang Tian's debauchery, the bodhisattvas, arhats, and eminent monks were dismayed, their faces ashen. However, they were wary of Jiang Tian's power, and could only suppress their dissatisfaction, not daring to show it. Jiang Tian was too strong. Jiang Tian only had 2 women to serve him. Even if he indulged in sensual pleasures here, what could they do? They could only hold their noses and endure. Hui Yan of the fire worship sect knelt on the ground and said fearfully, reporting to the World Revered One, the Golden Feather royal family has been swept clean. Not a single fish has escaped. However, those generals and officials have surrendered loyally. We have let them live, to show the World Revered One's benevolence and virtue. On the day of the battle at Golden Peak Arhat Mountain, he had been the first to surrender. As for Jiang Tian, he also needed a knife to kill. That was to kill Hu Bentian and replace him. Now it seemed that this old man was indeed a good knife to kill. He was a good dog that was good at biting people, loyal and devoted. As for the bodhisattvas, arhats, and eminent monks, the corners of their mouths twitched crazily. They grieved for the loss of their kind. The Golden Feather royal family had been brazenly exterminated, and Kang Tae-chu still called himself benevolent and virtuous. But who could be blamed for this? The Bodhisattva had not held the intention to exterminate the Yan Huang tribe and destroy Earth. If his Bodhisattva had won, how could Jiang Tian have survived? The entire human race on Earth would have been enslaved and slaughtered. This was the real world of cultivation. It was cruel and merciless. The strong were respected, and the weak were ants. When the strong were angry, blood would stain the ground, and millions of corpses would fall. When the weak were angry, no one would hear them. They would only be trampled on, trampled, and killed. Good. There's a reward. Jiang Tian swallowed a grape, chewed, and said lazily, I'll give you a fire-burning technique. I will bestow upon you a scroll of the leaf fire heaven-burning mysterious technique. After 10 years of cultivation, your battle prowess will be comparable to that of Tathagata. The others looked at Hui Yen with envy and jealousy. Those like Xiao Lingyu and Mei Jiaonan were not quick enough, and were not valued as much. They had even been bound by a soul contract by Jiang Tian. They would probably have to be loyal for 10 or even 100 years before they could reach Hui Yan's current level. Thank you, Taichu world-revered one, for your kindness. This junior will never forget it. From now on, your subordinate will do his best to serve you. I will not hesitate to go through fire and water. Hui Yan was overjoyed. His face was full of flattery. He kowtowed deeply, his head pounding like garlic. Cut the crap. If you want to bite someone, you have to have sharp teeth, don't you think? Jiang Tian smiled lazily. Jiang Tian's spiritual consciousness was extremely fast. A soul devourer's spiritual consciousness burst out, and Hui Yan instantly felt a new set of cultivation techniques appear in his mind. These characters seemed as if they were made of gold, and they emitted boundless light. They were immortal characters that spoke of profound meanings, and every single word was a gem. Every single word represented a move, and every single stroke was boundlessly profound and contained the laws of the Grand Tao within them. There's such a powerful fire-based cultivation technique in this world. Even if this old man dies, it'll be worth it to see this divine skill in my life. Hui Yan sat cross-legged and meditated. He held his breath and tried to comprehend it. He was instantly stunned. These cultivation techniques were unheard of. Hui Yan felt as if he had opened the door to a new world. Moreover, they were many times more powerful than the fire worship sect's cultivation techniques. Even the most powerful cultivation technique in the fire worship sect was trash in comparison. It was like a lazy woman's foot-binding cloth, smelly and long. Everyone looked at each other in shock. The Taichu world's honorable master was too powerful. Hui Yan actually gave such a high evaluation of the cultivation technique he gave him. The fire worship sect was founded on fire. With the red lotus fire mystic skill, they stood tall in the scorching desert for thousands of years. Among the many orthodoxies, they were only slightly weaker than the Golden Rock Temple. Hui Yan was so excited that he trembled all over. Tears welled up in his eyes as he said gratefully, the Honorable Master of the world has given such a divine skill to your disciple. It's just a 9th grade fire-based cultivation technique. It's nothing. In the future, if you work hard, I might teach you a real deity's cultivation technique. Jiang Tian took a sip of tea and smiled disdainfully. Everyone was shocked when they heard that. A cultivation technique that could suppress the fire worship sect's most powerful cultivation technique was only a 9th grade cultivation technique in Jiang Tian's eyes. This was too heaven-defying. In truth, Jiang Tian really wasn't pretending to be shocking. The heaven-burningly fire mystic skill was only a nascent soul cultivation technique. It could only push the heaven-burningly fire mystic skill to the nascent soul realm. However, the 13 Taishian swords that Jiang Tian taught Tang Linglong was a deity emperor cultivation technique. It was many times more powerful than the heaven-burningly fire mystic skill. Yes, the honorable master of the world. No, master. Hui Yan trembled and bowed to the ground. At this moment, the current sect leader of the fire worship sect was truly convinced. After all, he was an experienced perfected golden core cultivator. Even though he was afraid of Jiang Tian's supreme power, he still had the thought of destroying the Golden Rock Temple and the Changxing sect after Jiang Tian left and ascended to the top of West Earth. However, Jiang Tian's generosity in teaching him a peerless cultivation technique and the profound foundation behind it made him admire him. If I cultivate this cultivation technique diligently, I might be able to surpass the Taichu world's honorable master of the world. This cultivation technique can make people reach the nascent soul realm. Even the Taichu world's honorable masters would fight for it. But Kang Taichu doesn't care about it. Looks like the rumors are true. Kang Taichu is either a peerless overlord from another planet or the reincarnation of a soul formation grand cultivator. Otherwise, he wouldn't be so powerful before he's 30, especially when he's from Earth. Thinking of this, Hui Yan became more respectful. He was certainly afraid of an overlord who could kill a nascent soul cultivator. However, he was even more afraid of an old monster who had lived for an unknown amount of time in his previous life. Moreover, at his level, everything he did was to become stronger and pursue the supreme great path. If he could become stronger by following Jiang Tian and see the truth of the great path, why would he take the risk to fight with Jiang Tian? By the way, where does the legendary gate of creation of the Changxing sect lead to? Jiang Tian took out an ancient stone gate from the sky-swallowing demon gourd and asked with a frown. Seeing this, Hui Yan's pupils constricted as if he had seen something extremely terrifying. His face was filled with fear as he bowed respectfully and said in a trembling voice, "Taichu World Overlord, this sect involves a shocking secret. It concerns the life and death of West Earth and Earth. You have to be careful." Chapter 1181. Jiang Tian's original plan was to suppress the Changxing sect and kill those who were hostile to the Earth realm. After that, he couldn't wait to return to the Earth realm. After all, he had been worried about Qing'er and his child. Getting rid of the Buddha nature Arhat and Buddha, suppressing the Golden Rock Temple, and becoming the world venerable were not part of his plan. However, Jiang Tian's powerful strength made the Buddha nature Arhat wary. They attacked Jiang Tian first, and Jiang Tian had to attack them. Jiang Tian had gained a lot from this battle and had a far-reaching impact. Not to mention the inexhaustible cultivation resources in the Golden Rock Temple's treasury, there were thousands of golden cores that Jiang Tian had collected after destroying the 8-division Heavenly Dragon. If they were refined into elixirs, there would be at least 100 golden core cultivators. However, Jiang Tian, who had planned to return to the Earth realm, hesitated again at this time. This is not the gate of creation. It doesn't lead to the outer space or the central galaxy in the depths of the universe. It leads to a small space. Whitebeard, what's going on? As if he didn't hear Hui Yan's reminder, Jiang Tian stared at the gate of creation and frowned as he muttered to himself. This. Beside him, Whitebeard, the Grand Elder, was uneasy and stammered. Jiang Tian had been looking for the passage to the outer space, the central galaxy, and the ancient road of the stars. Previously, Jiang Tian had looked for the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality on Earth for this purpose. However, the incomplete map of the ruins of immortality only led to the ruins of immortality, not the central galaxy. Fortunately, according to the artifact spirit of the map of the ruins of immortality, there was indeed a transmission array in the ruins of immortality that led to the Saint Origin world. The Saint Origin world was not far from the central galaxy, and it was the first cultivation continent that Jiang Tian and his master had arrived at in his previous life. However, the artifact spirit had followed Laozi through the ruins of immortality thousands of years ago. Whether the transmission array in the ruins of immortality still existed was a huge question mark. Jiang Tian had heard about the Gate of Good Fortune at the grand ceremony of blood baths, and had paid close attention to it. But he'd first entered the treasure reserve hall and encountered the stellar crystal sand and chaotic source rock cauldron, so he placed this matter at the back of his mind. Then, the Demon Slayer army attacked Maolin City. It was only at this moment that Jiang Tian finally had time to spare. However, when Jiang Tian saw it today, he was greatly disappointed. He had seen all kinds of teleportation arrays. With his sharp eyes, he could tell at a glance that this so-called gate of creation was just an ordinary teleportation gate. It was more primitive and crude. It couldn't achieve long-distance interstellar teleportation, let alone teleport to the central galaxy of the universe. It was just a portal to a small world. This small world was not even as big as the dimensional world. It was estimated to be about 100 miles in radius. It was more appropriate to call it a grotto heaven. The old man doesn't know where the passage is. Whitebeard answered cautiously. However, all the previous sect masters have said that those below the divine transformation stage are not allowed to enter this world. Otherwise, there will be a disaster. That's ambiguous, but there's nothing wrong with it. Jiang Tian nodded slightly and said with a serious face, according to my observation, this teleportation gate can generate a spiritual energy shield. The space in this small world is very unstable. Those below the divine transformation stage cannot control the power of space. They will be easily swallowed. Maybe there are some powerful experts and monsters. Maybe. Whitebeard stammered, unable to give a reason. Gathering his thoughts, Jiang Tian looked at Hui Yan and asked with a faint smile, Hui Yan, you seem to know more about this gate of creation. What is it? Just tell me. The revered one of the world has given me a peerless divine skill. How can this old man hide anything from you? Hui Yan hurriedly bowed respectfully and then smiled. The truth about the gate of creation is not a top secret, but I'm afraid ordinary people don't know the truth. Also, the revered one of the world can't get the answer from the Changshan sect. Why? Jiang Tian was surprised. Hui Yan smiled coldly. This teleportation gate used to belong to the Void sect. However, 3,000 years ago, the sect master of the Changshan sect assassinated the sect master of the Void sect. He took the gate and destroyed the Void sect. As for the leader of the Void sect, he is his sworn brother. This is just a rumor. A rumor. Whitebeard's face froze and then he smiled awkwardly. However, Mao Hongdia's large eyes darted around. She knew that Hui Yan was telling the truth. Who would have thought that the sect master of the Changshan sect, who had reached the late stage of the Golden Core stage, went through this gate and entered the Nirvana world. When he came back, his Golden Core was taken away and he died on the same day. Hui Yan revealed a mocking expression and said, after that, his successor also died after entering the Nirvana world. After that, the previous sect master of Ming Rui also died. Jiang Tian understood and shook his head with a wry smile. The previous sect master of the Changshan sect had assassinated his sworn brother and seized the gate. However, he didn't expect to get anything good out of it. Instead, he and his two successors died. It was extremely humiliating. Of course, the Changshan sect would treat this as a great humiliation and wouldn't tell anyone about it. That's true, Whitebeard smiled awkwardly. However, we only know that the space behind the gate is extremely dangerous. As for what kind of world it is, we don't know either. Sect Master Hui Yan, do you know anything about it? Hui Yan smiled. He knew that it was time for him to perform. He puffed out his chest and said confidently, this gate leads to a small world called the Thunder Lock. It's the place that connects Westland, the ruins of immortality and several other dimensions. Thunder Lock. The beautiful man and Shaolin Yu exclaimed. Apparently, even the peerless sect masters had never heard of this place. What? This gate leads to the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian was shocked. You've misunderstood. Hui Yan hurriedly said. It should be that both the ruins of immortality and Westland can reach that small world, but they can't enter each other's gates and reach each other's world. The predecessors who entered this gate once said that the Thunder Lock should be an ancient fragment that's even older than Westland. It's connected to various dimensions, including the ruins of immortality. There are countless treasures in the Lightning Lake. Many people have been blessed with great fortune after entering it. In just a few months, they have been able to reach the limits of their cultivation, breaking through several realms consecutively. By the time they come out, they are already a force to be reckoned with. The sect master of the Void sect, who was exterminated by the Changshan sect, was an expert in array formations. He found that the space above the Golden Rock Temple was very unstable. It seemed that there was a space that attracted and interfered with West Land. He observed the weather, measured spiritual energy, measured the changes of mountains and rivers, and measured the movement of spiritual qi. Finally, he discovered the existence of the Thunder Lock and researched the gate of creation that leads to the Thunder Lock world. Once the news came out, the Void sect became a hot commodity. Even the Golden Rock Temple treated it as a guest of honor. Because countless people wanted to obtain the gate of creation. Of course, some protected the Void sect, and some threatened the Void sect to create the gate. At that time, the Changshan sect was only a third-rate sect. They didn't have the chance to obtain the gate of creation. At that time, the sect master and the Void sect master became sworn brothers and gained his trust. After obtaining a portal, the sect master killed the sect master and exterminated the entire Void sect. After the Changshan sect exterminated the Void sect, after thousands of years, many of the gates of creation were also damaged. Only the Changshan sect is left. Hui Yen sighed and smiled bitterly. Why? The gate of creation is a treasure. Shouldn't it be protected? Mao Hongdai was puzzled. The ruins of immortality, West Land, and heavenly world belong to 3 different dimensions. Before Hui Yen could speak, Jiang Tian said. The overlords of the ruins of immortality who entered the Thunder Lock also wanted to break the dimension barrier and enter West Land. But these gates of destinies had already imprinted the soul of the person who entered them. To the intruders, it was a one-way transmission array. They could only break it open by force, but who would have thought that they would trigger the self-destruct function of the transmission array? Yes. The Taichu World Overlord is really knowledgeable. His guess is right. Hui Yen exclaimed. Then, a deep sense of fear appeared on his face and he said with a trembling voice. A few hundred years ago, I was still a servant disciple of the fire worship sect. I once saw the 18th sect master of the fire worship sect rush out of the gate of creation in a hurry. However, there was a giant hand covered in scales that was 100 meters long. It broke through the gate of fortune and grabbed his golden core. There used to be more than one gate of creation. The Golden Rock Temple, the Fire Worship Sect, the Tingyu Tower, and the Hehuan Sect all obtained it. In fact, there were even predecessors who managed to enter and come back alive. Breaking the dimension barrier with one's body, even if it's the dimension barrier of a small world, requires a nascent soul cultivator. Jiang Tian's heart skipped a beat. His eyes lit up and he was eager to try. And the hand covered in scales. It's not a human. I don't know if it's a demon or a monster. This was just a guess. Jiang Tian couldn't be sure. He asked, what else do you know about the Thunder Lock? The Thunder Lock is a small dimension that suddenly appeared outside the dimension barrier 10,000 years ago. That's how Mount Thunder got its name. Hui Yen explained. According to the records, there were no lightning bolts above Mount Thunder at first. It was just a mountain. But gradually, the dimension above Mount Thunder became more and more unstable. Lightning bolts shot down from the sky. According to the observation of the senior from the Void sect, a small dimension appeared there. This dimension is connected to several dimensional worlds, and even a macro world. The experts who came back alive from the Thunder Lock also confirmed this. Although there are many heavenly materials and earthly treasures in the Thunder Lock, it's also full of monsters and monsters. Experts from other dimensional worlds come and go. It's a very dangerous place. Therefore, many people gained enlightenment from the Thunder Lock, but more of them died there. It's a great loss. It's said that there are zombies in the Thunder Lock. They are as tall as mountains and have been dead for a very long time. Even though they are just skeletons, they can still wake up and kill golden core cultivators. Therefore, many sects call this place a forbidden area. After the extinction of the Void sect, the gates of destinies were destroyed one by one. Until now, only the gate of destinies of the Changshan sect was left. Therefore, for hundreds of years, no one has entered the Thunder Lock. Many senior members of the sects who knew about the Thunder Lock deliberately tried to cover it up. After a long time, no one knew about the Thunder Lock. It's said that there's a giant ferocious beast guarding the Thunder Lock. It can spit out lightning bolts and turn the entire Thunder Lock into a sea of lightning. It's very powerful and terrifying. According to the speculation of the predecessors, the lightning bolts above the Golden Rock Temple were generated by it. It's a ferocious beast of the Thunder family. It can spit out lightning bolts. I'm afraid it's a quasi-divine beast, or a young one. Jiang Tian's expression changed slightly. Suddenly, he thought of something and his eyes lit up. There are not many divine beasts that can spit out lightning bolts. Lightning bolts are even rarer. Could it be a thunder centipede? If it's a thunder centipede, I can take its monster elixir, blood essence, bloodline, and lightning energy to create a divine body of the Thunder family. Chapter 1182. Jiang Tian's cultivation art was incredible. When he broke through to the first level of the Foundation establishment level on the Sword Tomb Island in the Arctic, he had awakened the purple lightning eyes and lightning divine powers. The purple lightning eyes were powerful, but they were only divine powers after all, not divine body avatars. If I complete the Thunder Slaughter divine body, Zhang Qianlei's eyes will pop out of their sockets when I meet him. Jiang Tian touched his chin and a wicked smile appeared on his face. Zhang Qianlei had gone to the Qia dimension and joined the Imperial Thunder sect. After several years of cultivation, he must have achieved something. Jiang Tian could even guess that he had seen the smug look on his face. However, the Thunder Mantis was a divine beast of Thunder class that was on par with the Vermilion Bird, the Azure Dragon, and the Thick Earth Dragon. Using it as the foundation to refine the divine body would be a heaven-defying existence. Any Thunder technique would pale in comparison. The Qia dimension was only a level 4 dimension and there weren't many golden core cultivators there. The Imperial Thunder sect was just so. However, Jiang Tian was only thinking about it. The Thunder Slaughter was the most powerful Thunder divine beast in the universe. Many deity emperors and divine emperors relied on it to guard their deity kingdoms and divine nations, as guards when they went out on patrol or as mentors to their emperors. The divine beast that sat on the walls of many deity palaces and divine palaces was the Thunder Slaughter. Its role was to monitor, warn, and teach the deity emperors. When the deity emperors and divine emperors went out for a long time and didn't return, the Thunder Slaughter would roar like thunder, "Come back and deal with your country's affairs." When they stayed in the palace for a long time and didn't do anything, the Thunder Slaughter would also shout, "Go out and observe the situation. Your country is about to collapse." That was why the Thunder Slaughter was called, Wang Di returns, Wang Di comes out, or Wang Di wakes up. In the central galaxy deep in the universe, the Thunder Slaughter was very powerful and liked to eat dragon brains, so it was called the Overlord of the Divine Beasts. There was a saying that one slaughter could suppress 3 dragons and 2 serpents. In history, many immortal emperors and god emperors had refined the Thunderbolt immortal body and divine body to ascend to the throne and prove their Tao. Lei Meng's strength was evident from the fact that he was able to help others prove their Tao, obtain the position of immortal emperor and god emperor, and also be the teacher of immortal emperors and god emperors. If he could meet a Thunder Mantis, Jiang Tian could only say that his luck was too good. At this moment, he didn't dare to have any extravagant hopes. Although the Thunder Lake is dangerous, I still want to take a look. Seeing Hu Yan and Whitebeard's nervous expressions, Jiang Tian said, "Don't worry. Don't worry, with this gate of destinies that can freely travel between the 2 worlds, I'll immediately return if I encounter any danger." The mentality of a powerhouse was not as simple as killing all who stood in their way and being fearless and fearless. Jiang Tian, who had tens of thousands of years of memories in his previous life, did not possess the courage of an ignorant man. In fact, Jiang Tian's every battle was a huge risk in the eyes of others, like an egg striking a rock. But to Jiang Tian, it was the result of careful planning and he was confident that he would win. Ever since Jiang Tian returned to Earth and rose to power, he had only taken 2 real risks, and he had been seriously injured. The first time was to fight for the Princess Flower on Mount Everest. The second time was to find the Spirit Chi Revival Seed and fight with the Divine Ancestor of Light in Heavenly Kingdom. But it was all for Qing'er. Jiang Tian had no choice but to fight. This time was different. If Jiang Tian really encountered an overlord that he couldn't defeat, his life would be more important. He would immediately escape and return to West Earth. Master, I want to go too. Take me with you. I want to experience it with you. Mao Hongdai begged softly. Hongdai, that place is very dangerous. If you go, I'm afraid you will only bring endless trouble to our sect master. Whitebeard suddenly felt a headache coming on. He tried his best to persuade him. No problem. Jiang Tian smiled faintly and said, after I return to Earth, Hongdai will take charge of the Changshan sect. Even though I'm at ease with all of you assisting her, she still needs to increase her own experience and gain more experience. Tang Linglong also asked to go. Jiang Tian turned a deaf ear to her. Her face darkened. She felt that Jiang Tian seemed to be deliberately keeping a distance from her recently. Then go ahead, Supreme One of the World. Hui Yan, on the other hand, patted his chest loudly and said, I, Whitebeard, Luo Mei, and I will guard West Earth. There will be no accidents. Jiang Tian nodded, then grabbed the Gate of Creation and threw it into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Under everyone's gaze, he held Mao Hongdie's waist and turned into a golden rainbow, heading straight for the space barrier above Golden Rock Temple. Swoosh! Swoosh! Jiang Tian flew tens of thousands of kilometers with Mao Hongdai and finally arrived at the space barrier. However, when he arrived here, a wisp of a solemn expression appeared on Jiang Tian's face as he stopped in his tracks. What's wrong, Master? Mao Hongdai asked. The space here is extremely unstable. Jiang Tian said. This place was very high. When they looked down, they could already see the entire West Earth. It was an irregular continent. Thunder Mountain and Golden Rock Temple were right below them. The bottom of the continent was connected to the colorful and dazzling space barrier. The space barrier stretched up into the sky, just like the legendary Square Heaven and Square Earth. The space barrier above their heads was only a few thousand meters away from them. It was like a layer of clear water. The starry sky was bright, and the stars were like reflections in the water, twinkling slightly. All of a sudden, a thunderbolt as thick as a finger exploded from the space barrier. Jiang Tian's face changed and he quickly flashed back a few thousand meters. Master, your cultivation is incredible. You are not even afraid of a thunderbolt as thick as a bucket. Why? Mao Hongdai said with a smile. Boom! While she was puzzled, she suddenly saw the thunderbolt as thick as a finger growing bigger and bigger. With a loud bang, it exploded on the top of Thunder Mountain and turned into tens of thousands of huge thunderbolts. They covered the entire Thunder Mountain like a thunder net. The sea of clouds surged like waves hitting the shore. Trees exploded, mountains shook, and heavy rain fell. Mao Hongdie's face turned pale and she was dumbfounded. How can such a small thunderbolt become so big? This is the hard thunder. A thunderbolt is 10,000 times more powerful than a normal thunderbolt. Jiang Tian looked serious and he was both worried and happy. After the hard thunder was released, a palm-sized hole appeared on the space barrier and it didn't disappear. Jiang Tian's divine sense passed through the small hole and scanned over. He immediately saw a blue sky, a continuous mountain range, and a blazing sun hanging in the sky. Mao Hongdai also activated her soul consciousness and looked inside. Her soul consciousness wasn't as powerful as Jiang Tian's, but she also saw something. This is strange. It's already night here, but it's daytime in the Thunder Lock. Don't we use the same sun? Mao Hongdai was shocked. That's right. Jiang Tian said. This dimension is strange. It overlaps with many other worlds, or it used a secret art to shorten the distance between it and the other worlds. It might be using the suns of other worlds. Jiang Tian was now able to understand the divisions of these dimensional worlds. They were folded into dimensions and couldn't be observed. The external gravitational force had disappeared, but there was a stable gravitational field inside. Overall, there were 3 known dimensional worlds, but they were still within the range of the solar system. They were not far from Earth. They were like a group of geosynchronous satellites scattered around the Earth. They were stationary to the Earth, but they all revolved around the sun, borrowing the light of the sun. The heavenly world had created an artificial sun to speed up the cultivation of the sacred ones of light, but they could still use the artificial sun. The Thunderlock and West Earth used the same sun. If West Earth didn't have any sunlight, they shouldn't have either. But now, there was sunlight in the Thunderlock, which meant it was connected to another world. Roar, roar, roar. Angry roars echoed from the small holes in the spatial crystal barrier. Apparently, they were frustrated and impatient. A giant eyeball peeped out of the hole. The veins in the eyeball were as thick as an arm, which showed how big it was. A beam of divine light shot out from the eyeball like a lamp post, illuminating the Thunder Sound Mountain as far as 10,000 meters away. Then, the hole disappeared and so did the giant eyeball. Listen to the voice and look at the eyeball. It's really a Thunderlock. But it seems to be a young one. Jiang Tian was extremely shocked, his heart suddenly filled with excitement. It's been here for 10,000 years, and it's still a young one. Mao Hongdai suddenly felt that her brain wasn't enough. A dog is considered old when it's 10 years old. Jiang Tian laughed and said, divine beasts like the Thunderlock, the red sparrow and the winged dragon can live for 10,000 years, 100,000 years or even 1,000,000 years. The lifespan of a human can't be compared to that of a divine beast. He didn't just mean ordinary people, but also cultivators. Even a golden core perfected immortal couldn't live more than 1,000 years. How could they be compared to the divine beasts that dominated the universe? Let's go in. If we don't find anything, we'll leave. Jiang Tian's eyes flashed. He took out the Gate of Fortune and formed a few hand seals. Vast amounts of true essence formed a series of activation runes as he hit the gate. The Gate of Good Fortune instantly released tens of thousands of rays of light, thousands of auspicious colors, forming a colorful spiritual energy spatial shield, enveloping Jiang Tian and Jiang Tian. It was a matter of life and death. Under the activation of the portal's magic power, the two of them disappeared from where they were standing. A phantom image of the Gate of Fortune appeared on the crystal wall of space. Then, it gradually calmed down like ripples of water and slowly disappeared. Jiang Tian went through the dimension crystal and entered the Thunderlock. Chapter 1183. Mao Hongdai felt dizzy. The world before her eyes was spinning, and the scenery was chaotic. Her ears were roaring, as if there were countless noises. Hongdai, wake up. Jiang Tian's voice came. It seemed to be close to her ears, but also far away. Where am I? Am I dead? She wanted to open her eyes, but her eyelids were heavy and she didn't have any strength in her body. Then, something seemed to be stuffed into her mouth. A sweet taste came and turned into a warm current that flowed into her dantian. Master, she quickly regained her strength and opened her eyes. The sun was shining, the sky was blue, and there were white clouds floating in the sky. Under her feet was a grassland. When she calmed down, she was shocked to see two suns, one big and one small. These two suns were much bigger than the ones she saw in the West Earth. The big one was like a small mountain, and the small one was as big as the mouth of a water tank. Moreover, they were much brighter than the sun. Endless flames burned fiercely. Especially the smaller sun, it was so dazzling that she didn't dare to look directly at it. Her eyes were about to cry. You're finally awake. Jiang Tian smiled and said. Although the Gate of Fortune is able to withstand the turbulent flow of hell's space and has the ability to protect one's body, when it breaks through the space barrier, there is still a powerful tearing force of space. That force is so vast that it can even crush a nascent soul cultivator. Fortunately, I used a few small divine powers to protect you. Otherwise, you might have died. 2 sons. Mao Hongdie's voice trembled. Compared to the shock brought by traveling through space, the shock brought by the 2 sons was 10 times stronger. No, it's 3. Jiang Tian said. These should be the twin stars of the South Gate. There are 2 stars, but there's a neighboring star. Because it's too small and not bright enough, it can't be seen. It seems that this is similar to my previous speculation. It is said that the ruins of immortality is in the orbit of one of the stars of the twin stars of the South Gate. This world should have a deep connection with the ruins of immortality. Jiang Tian looked around and said, yes. The artificial dome is not just a simple space barrier. It is also an observation system made of tens of thousands of components. Although it is very far away from the ruins of deities, it is still possible to observe the pictures in the ruins of deities and feel the sunlight through the relays of the surveillance magical equipment scattered in space. The person who created this world is too great. Mao Hongdai was shocked. This small world was still light years away from the ruins of immortality. It was unknown how long it was, but it could still be visually monitored. What kind of monstrous power was this? Just how high was the craftsmanship of this artifact? Are you done? Jiang Tian nodded and said with a smile. All right, get up. Although Jiang Tian and the ruins of immortality were currently enemies, Jiang Tian still had to admit their strength. Thank you, Master. I'm fine. Mao Hongdai stood up and moved her arms and legs. When she felt that there were no problems, she smiled sweetly. Jiang Tian nodded slightly. His eyes emitted a foot-long divine radiance as he swept his gaze across a stretch of mountain peaks in the distance. I've already sensed the existence of the Thunder Mantis. It's on that mountain. Let's go. Jiang Tian immediately took Mao Hongdai and flew towards the mountain range in front of them. On the way, Mao Hongdai was more and more surprised. This place was bizarre and the sky was changing rapidly. In a certain part of the sky, the sun was still shining brightly, but suddenly, it turned into a deep starry sky full of stars. In fact, one could even see a bare and withered meteorite, or huge mountains and rivers, or majestic cities and palaces. There were thousands of palaces and halls that stretched on endlessly. The buildings here were much more exquisite than those in West Earth. As the view quickly zoomed in, she could even see the tiny patterns on it, as if the meteorite or the mountain was about to enter this world. Sometimes, there would be a turbulent flow of flowing lights and vibrant colors. Divine light would collide and the scene would be chaotic. Sometimes, it would be like flowing lava, and sometimes, it would be like a distorted aurora. Gorgeous colors would pass by quickly like a merry-go-round. The sky seemed to be a maze formed by various colored lights. There was even a strange language being transmitted. Shouts, sounds of fighting, explosions, and collapsing erupted from the sky from time to time, as if it was an ancient battlefield with thousands of miles of blood. The sound was even louder and more shocking than the rolling thunder, making Mao Hongdie's face turn pale and her heart jump. This should be the observation artifact of the Thunder Lock world. It's still operating, but its function is disrupted. There are even some projections of ancient scenes. Mao Hongdai was shocked and didn't dare to look anymore. It was as if the sky would interfere, and it would be extremely dangerous to look at it again. Not only was the sky spectacular, strange, and mysterious, but the Thunder Lock small world was also very mystical and treacherous. It was as if the magnetic force was extremely unstable because of the destruction. Sometimes, huge rocks and even mountains thousands of meters tall would float in the air like withered petals. Then, these rocks and mountains would suddenly be cut in half by the broken space, or forcefully pressed and glued together by the magnificent power of space. Sometimes, the gravity would suddenly increase, and even with Jiang Tian's powerful cultivation, he would fall to the ground like a meteor. Then, he could only rely on his surging physical strength to rise into the air again, as if his magic power had been restricted. There were also huge ferocious beasts and mutated beasts that seemed to have mutated under the influence of the environment. Mao Hongdai had never seen them before. Some of them were as hard as iron, and their claws were sharp enough to shatter mountain rocks. Some of them ran as if they were flying, faster than lightning. Some of them were as large as a small mountain, and some of them were covered in dense scales that flickered with a terrifying metallic luster. However, with Jiang Tian around, everything was more daunting than dangerous. He easily dodged the space fragments, and when he encountered demonic beasts, Jiang Tian punched them and destroyed them. Huh! This is an ancient battlefield. However, after flying for about 10 miles, Jiang Tianyu came to a halt. How can it be so big? Is this a human? Mao Hongdai suddenly exclaimed. On a hillside, there was a huge skeleton, half of which was buried in the soil and the other half was exposed. Jiang Tian only felt a powerful divine might coming over, and he slowly walked over. Mao Hongdai felt that even more and couldn't withstand it, as if all her bones were about to break. She was shocked and asked softly, "Master, is that the thunder mantis nearby?" "No." Jiang Tian sized up the skeleton and said lightly, "It's this skeleton. This is the skeleton of a soul formation overlord, a real soul formation overlord." The skeleton was abnormally huge, at least 10 meters tall, and a few people could stand in its chest. Soul formation overlord. Mao Hongdai was shocked. There hadn't been a soul formation overlord in the history of West Earth for 10,000 years, not even a nascent soul overlord. And the soul formation overlords were above the nascent soul overlords. They didn't know where the soul formation overlord came from, but it shouldn't be from West Earth. Jiang Tian cautiously moved forward, and Mao Hongdai also tiptoed behind him, looking anxious and uneasy. Jiang Tian raised his fingers and wanted to use a divine power to dig out the skeleton. Suddenly, he felt that something was wrong. He took out the primal chaos source cauldron, which floated in front of him. Then, he flicked his fingers and a few giant golden sword auras penetrated the soil, digging out the huge skeleton like shovels. Boom! There was a loud bang. The primal chaos source cauldron trembled violently and the 3 grains of galaxy crystal sand became bigger, but they were thrown 1,000 meters away by a ray of light and rolled on the ground. Jiang Tian was shocked. The galaxy crystal sand used to be invincible and could even smash a peak stage golden core overlord to death. But then, the skeleton seemed to have been dead for tens of thousands of years, but the murderous intent it released was able to knock away the galaxy crystal sand. Jiang Tian thought to himself. If the soul formation overlord was still alive, it would be difficult for him to defeat him even if he used all his divine powers. Jiang Tian raised his hand to summon the galaxy crystal sand that was knocked away. He felt that it was extremely hot and said, "It's indeed the power of a divine treasure. It's not true essence anymore, it's divine essence." Then, the soil was cleared and the skeleton was completely revealed. There was a palace above his dantian, between his heart and lungs. However, the palace was a bit dilapidated and decayed. A divine treasure. It was formed from the embryo of a nascent soul overlord, the symbol of a soul formation overlord. And in the palace stood the shadows of a big divine treasure and a few small ones. Those divine treasures weren't big, but if one looked closely, they would be found. Those divine treasures were formed by stars, like a galaxy billions of kilometers long. They were extremely magnificent. One could even see the withered sun, the moon, the stars, and the broken stars. What is the divinity transformation stage? It means that one has the godhead and the status of a god. The yuanying in the dantian is sublimated again. One or several deity puppets are refined in the divine treasures inside the body, achieving the connection between man and nature. Jiang Tian looked at the divine treasury that was flickering with light and sighed faintly. As long as the primordial spirit can connect with the divine realm, it will be almost invincible. It will have the power to destroy the world, travel through the stars and travel across the universe. After all, no matter how powerful a person is, how can he be compared with the vast universe, billions of stars and the vast world? Even though that soul formation overlord had been dead for a long time and his divine treasures were broken, his divine treasure hadn't completely disappeared and it could still connect with a planet region in the vast universe. Even if he was dead, as long as his divine treasure could activate the laws and power of a planet region, even if it was only 1 in 10,000 or 1 in a billion, how powerful would it be? It would be able to crush thousands of Tathagatas. His divine treasure has been destroyed. Jiang Tian suddenly found something new. This person's divine avatar had been pierced through by a sword, coming out from his chest. At the corresponding position, there was also a small hole in his divine treasure. The sword had been pulled out by its owner, but even after thousands of years, there was still a shadow left. The sword chi hadn't been destroyed yet. The person who killed him was at least an overlord at the soul formation level. For example, soul formation overlords were born with divine treasures and divine treasures. As long as their divine realm wasn't destroyed, their divine treasures would be indestructible. As long as their divine treasures existed, even if their bodies were destroyed, soul formation overlords could rebuild their bodies and condense their essence and blood to almost live forever. The only way to kill a soul formation overlord was to destroy their divine treasures and divine treasures. But think about it. Even a golden core cultivator was invincible, let alone a soul formation divine treasure and divine treasure. Soul formation cultivators were powerful. In short, they wouldn't be afraid of 100 nuclear explosions or even the first one. Soul formation cultivators were many times more powerful than nascent soul overlords. As for golden core cultivators, 10,000 of them together might not even be comparable to a soul formation cultivator. Soul formation cultivators weren't that easy to kill. Wait. This sword chi. Jiang Tian was startled. From this sword chi, Jiang Tian sensed a familiar aura, an aura that made his heart palpitate. Chapter 1184. The aura of an annihilator. Looking carefully, the sword energy phantom was still wriggling non-stop. It was like a blood-sucking leech that was constantly absorbing and devouring the divine origin energy of the divine puppets in the divine treasures. It was an annihilator. Jiang Tian's pupils constricted in shock. The Annihilator was one of the most violent and destructive beings in the universe, even more so than many of the demon race. Soul formation annihilators could even devour a planet. At the return to void stage, they could already devour stars and even galaxies. Annihilators at the Tao integration and tribulation transcendence stages could no longer use physical attacks. They could turn a galaxy into two-dimensional or even one-dimensional, completely erasing it from this world. In the depths of the universe, even the demons were irreconcilable with the annihilators. After Jiang Tian ascended to the divine world, he had speculated with some divine emperors who were on good terms with him. The annihilators broke the laws of the universe and could even destroy layers of universes. In the end, the entire universe would return to nothingness, returning to the beginning of the universe and eternal loneliness. It was also rumored that in the early days of the universe was infinitely multidimensional. Everyone could freely travel through time and space without cultivating. A three-dimensional space was a possibility in life. A person had infinite possibilities and unlimited life paths. And on a life path, people could also return and stay at any point in time at any time. It was not as simple as having an endless lifespan, but they could also choose and repeat any stage of life. At that time, the entire universe was endlessly beautiful. Everyone's life was free, perfect, and blissful. And it was the existence of the annihilators that continuously reduced the dimensions of the universe, finally turning it into the three-dimensional universe of today. Therefore, the symbol of Hongmeng's divine Tao was to create a new world and universe to stop the constant collapse and reduction of dimensions of the universe. In essence, it was to resist the enormous and terrifying race of the annihilators. Even Hongmeng's divine Tao was to resist the annihilators. It was clear how powerful the annihilators were. Jiang Tian never expected that he would encounter the aura of an annihilator near Earth. This was too surprising for him. The Annihilators were existences that could compete with a god-level civilization. Why would they target the desolate and dilapidated ruins of immortality and ancient Earth at the edge of the universe? No, I have to ask him. Jiang Tian's face turned solemn. He cast the Yin Underworld's gate to summon the heroic spirits, simulating the Yin Underworld and awakening his spirit. Voila! The corpse suddenly trembled. Mao Hongdai was so frightened that she almost jumped up. Chi, 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 a few treasured swords jumped out of their sheaths and aimed at the skeleton. A huge skeletal hand slowly rose up. The skeleton actually sat up. Its huge skull drooped down and stared at Jiang Tian and Mao Hongdai. However, it turned a blind eye to them. A lot of soil and stones fell from its eye sockets and mouth. Kill! The corpse grabbed a tattered flag from the ground and stood up. It suddenly rolled it up and opened its mouth. The remaining magic power in the divine treasure shook the air. Even though there was no flesh and blood, it still let out rolling thunder. By the divine decree of the Shang Emperor, behind us is our home. We have nowhere to run. Kill. Only kill. He spoke in the ancient Huaxia language. Although his accent was different from today's, he could still understand it. Jiang Tian smiled bitterly. He wanted to awaken his spirit, but it wasn't a spirit. His spirit had been destroyed for a long time. Right then, it was just a stubborn spirit without much intelligence. This stubbornness and fighting spirit remained in his divine treasure and was awakened by Jiang Tian. Senior, the war is over. Who do you serve and who are you fighting for? Who are your enemies? Jiang Tian asked. At this moment, Jiang Tian was being sincere when he called him senior. This person had reached the soul formation level and was probably a few thousand years old. Besides, he must have died hundreds of thousands of years ago. Even if Jiang Tian had lived 2 lives, he would only be a few years over 10,000 years old. He wouldn't be able to live as long as this obsession. The skeleton looked down at Jiang Tian and said, I am the general of the Western Heavenly Gate under the command of the Shang Emperor. I was ordered to stay at the Western Heavenly Gate to stop the Annihilators. This is a battlefield. Child, leave now. Don't get killed. Emperor Sheng. Jiang Tian was shocked. The deity ground, the master of the heavenly courts. The divine general shouted, we, the deity ground, wander the universe, looking for a place to stay for our roots. We're marching to the southern heavenly gate. Anyone who stops us will die. Where are my brothers? The huge skeleton took large strides and rushed up the slope, waving a large flag and shouting loudly. However, when he lowered his head to look, his body stiffened and remained motionless. The southern heavenly gate? Isn't that where the ruins of deities are? Is the deity ground the ruins of deities? Jiang Tian wondered. Is the war over? Where's the Shang Emperor? Why isn't he here to welcome us? Did he die? Jiang Tian and Mao Dai walked up the slope. Below them were huge skeletons, lying in a disorderly manner. There were at least 1,000 of them, and their armors were all rotten. They were stacked on top of each other, and there was no end in sight. Numerous divine weapons were stabbed into the ground. There were also dilapidated war chariots, towering warships mottled with copper rust, metal array discs that were hundreds of meters tall, and traces of magic power fluctuations. Mao Hongdai was stunned. This used to be a battlefield between gods and demons. The warriors had died 10,000 years ago, but they hadn't turned into dust. What year is it now? The skeleton asked in a hoarse voice, where's Emperor Sheng? Why did he leave my brothers in the wilderness? We died for the heavenly courts. We should be buried in peace. Jiang Tian couldn't answer that question. This was because he had never heard of the Shang Emperor's name in the stellar sky dimension. But according to the divine general, he died on the way to the southern heavenly gate in the ruins of deities to stop the Annihilator. That was a long time ago, at least tens of thousands of years ago. Jiang Tian hurriedly said, Senior, the deity ground should have arrived at the southern heavenly gate. The war is over. The divine general mumbled to himself, we've finally arrived. We've found a place for our people to live. He lowered his head and seemed to be crying, but there were no tears. He threw away the flag and picked up a skeleton. My brothers, my comrades, we've completed our mission. I just don't know if Emperor Sheng has died in battle. But even if he dies in battle, I, as your general, will bury you and lay you to rest. Can you wake them up? I want to talk to them one last time. The divine general looked at Jiang Tian and asked. I'll try. Jiang Tian heaved a sigh. The soul-summoning divine power of the underworld gate was very taxing on one's immortal consciousness. Besides, these people's immortal consciousnesses had already been destroyed, leaving only some broken thoughts. It was even more taxing on Jiang Tian. However, Jiang Tian admired the divine general's fearless spirit, so he still used the underworld soul-summoning divine power. A moment later. Whoosh! The skeletons stood up one by one, shaking. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate was overjoyed. He hugged the skeletons of his comrades, crying and laughing. General! The skeleton's immortal consciousness was very weak, and it did not seem to have much intelligence. Its words were very simple. However, this was enough to make the general of the Western Heavenly Gate cry out in excitement. Jiang Tian used his cultivation technique, and the gung metal sword radiance burst out. Mao Hongdai also helped by carving out thousands of graves on the mountain rocks. The soldiers picked up their weapons and walked to the side of their graves, as if waiting for the general of the Western Heavenly Gate to give the order. It seemed that as long as the general of the Western Heavenly Gate gave the order, they would rise up and fight on the battlefield to protect the people. They would die on the battlefield and stain the earth with their blood. In the next life, we'll be brothers again. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate held the tattered war flag in his hand. He did not speak, but his voice was still like thunder. In the next life, we'll be brothers again and fight side by side. Many warriors stood straight like peerless heavenly swords, unyielding as they shouted in unison. The Qing Emperor will return and lead our brothers to fight the enemy again. We'll kill all those greedy ghosts. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate used up the last of his dermic powers and shouted, now, you can rest in peace. General, we'll meet again in the next life. We'll fight the universe again. The broken dantians of the skeletons let out a roar. They took their weapons and walked into their graves, lying down. It was as if as long as the horn was blown, they would jump up, pick up their weapons, and continue to fight everywhere. This kind of pride made Mao Hongdia's heart beat faster. Her eyes turned red, and her scalp tingled. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate walked quickly and sealed the graves. He set up a stone tablet and carved his name on it. Jiang Tian helped by the side. He took out many array formation materials and set up a restriction array formation for each grave. Finally, they were buried in peace. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate sat down on the hillside. He seemed very tired. He stabbed the war flag into the ground beside him and looked at the graves for a while before slowly closing his eyes. He sat there quietly, his back ramrod straight. His towering skeleton was like a mountain that would never collapse. General, we've prepared a grave for you. Why don't you live in it? You're already dead. Mao Hongdai asked with a pained look. I'm their general. We didn't lead them to the deity ground. I don't deserve my own grave. I have to protect them. The general replied. General, who exactly is the Qing Emperor? Mao Hongdai asked. Empress Hua created humans, Emperor Shi created the 8 trigrams, yin and yang, he created words to name everything, Emperor Yan tasted hundreds of herbs, Emperor Huang suppressed Grand Magus Qiyu. Humans are becoming more and more prosperous. The general's divine treasure rumbled. When the Qing Emperor era came, everyone could live 100 years and the ancient earth became a cultivation planet. But then, darkness invaded and destroyed the planets. The Qing Emperor and the leaders of the tribes divided the ancient earth and built Dharma artifacts. They left Earth and went to the South Gate twin stars, beginning a long interstellar journey. 100,000 of our soldiers fought against the Annihilators. They fell one after another, scattered in the desolate universe, dying without a place of burial. Only the remnants of the Western Heavenly Gate army were left, and there was still a piece of land where we could preserve our bodies. The Qing Emperor was the one who built the deity ruins on the land of China and pushed it deep into the universe, Jiang Tian mumbled to himself. That Qing Emperor was indeed a man of great talent and strategy. Suddenly, Jiang Tian frowned and asked, "General," the Qing Emperor said. "The fragments of the deity ground are now called the deity ruins. They've created a cage around Earth to monitor it. Once someone reaches the third level of the Foundation establishment level, they'll immediately trigger the world net. They seem to be up to no good." Is that what the Qing Emperor wanted? Chapter 1185. No. That's impossible. The general of the Western Heavenly Gate said excitedly. "We left the ancient Earth because Planet Destroyer had absorbed the spirit chi. The spirit chi couldn't help him reach the top of the divine realm. Besides, we didn't want Planet Destroyer to reach the phenomenal level. We wanted Planet Destroyer to achieve his goal. So, we pushed the continent away and took away the spirit chi. We destroyed everything. But why would we stop the cultivation of the new Earth?" Emperor Sheng had always thought of the Earth as his ancestral land and mother planet. He hoped that the deity ground would become stronger one day and return to the Earth to destroy Planet Destroyer and revive the spirit chi. To restore the glory of the Earth. Jiang Tian was also confused. There seemed to be a thick fog in front of him and he couldn't see the truth of history. The era of Emperor Sheng must have been a glorious time. One of the generals was a soul formation grand cultivator and the ordinary soldiers were nascent soul perfected cultivators. But what exactly had happened? The deity ground became a deity ruins, but the deity ruins seemed to have betrayed Emperor Sheng's last wish and become Earth's enemy. The god puppet guard general stood up again and looked at the distorted sky. His divine treasures rumbled with thunderous roars as he said in shock. He shook his head and said, "You said the deity ground is now called the deity ruins? Did something happen to the deity ground? Why did it become a ruin? Is the heavenly court no longer around? Could the Qing Emperor have died in battle? I don't know." Jiang Tian shook his head and told him the truth. "I'm a human from the new Earth. I've already entered the West Land and I'm going to take a look at the deity ruins. You seem to have reached the 5th level of the Foundation establishment level and formed 5 divine bodies. You'll have a divine grade golden core." "No. You used the energy of the Earth Dragon to suppress your power. You're already a divine grade fake core. Has the spirit chi of Earth been revived?" The general said with anticipation. "He knows a divine grade golden core." Jiang Tian was shocked. A divine grade golden core was extremely rare, even on the cultivation planets deep in the universe. And yet, this old general had recognized it at first glance, which showed how prosperous the cultivation on the ancient Earth was. Just what level is the Qing Emperor at? Jiang Tian was extremely shocked in his heart as he asked this crucial question. For Emperor Qing to be able to push an entire continent into space, he must have at least reached the Tao integration stage. "Why are you here?" The divine general was delirious and didn't answer. Instead, he asked curiously. "I want to kill a thunder centipede." Jiang Tian said. "You're ambitious. Good skill." The divine general gave a thumbs up as his divine treasure rumbled. "I vaguely remember. The thunder puppets were the youngest of the Annihilator's mounts. The 2 older thunder puppets had broken through space and fallen into the void 10,000 years ago. They had already died. This Lei Meng's son is very powerful. He can kill nascent soul experts. This Western Heavenly Gate small world was originally a fortress and a communication station that could lead to any immortal ruin system. However, when he realized that we had perished, Emperor Qing made his move. He used his dermic powers to transcend the stars and create a spatial barrier. Seal this place completely. That Lei Meng is very dishonest. He's been trying to pass through the spatial crystal walls and enter the different dimensions. It's very dangerous. He unleashed lightning every day, so this place is called the Thunder Lock. By killing that Lei Meng, you can be considered to have protected the safety of many worlds. Jiang Tian nodded heavily, his heart filled with shock. Since those annihilators had thunder puppets as mounts, it could be seen that they were not ordinary annihilators. They could be considered mighty figures. And Emperor Sheng had been able to fight against them for hundreds of years. He could be considered a great hero. There seems to be the aura of the Chaos Wood Cauldron in your body. That's Dharma treasure of Emperor Sheng. Suddenly, the old general said something shocking. Emperor Sheng's Dharma treasure? Senior, you must be joking. This thing has belonged to West Earth since ancient times. Hee. Mao Hongdia's expression changed drastically, and a trace of vigilance appeared in her heart. Her body tensed up, afraid that the divine skeleton would snatch it away. Back then, I held this stone cauldron to guard the western heavenly gate. But unfortunately, I didn't complete the task and left this treasure in the depths of the universe. I didn't expect it to fall into West Earth, and I didn't expect it to fall into your hands. The general ignored Mao Hongdai. Instead, he looked at Jiang Tian, his divine treasures rumbling. His voice was old and sorrowful. However, even if you return it to me, I can't return to the deity ground and return it to Emperor Sheng. Moreover, His Majesty is very likely to have died in battle. This stone cauldron is yours. Also, these remaining Dharma treasures are all yours. The divine skeleton in his divine treasures flashed, and the remaining Dharma power on the chariots and compasses were completely erased as a final gift. Jiang Tian was delighted. Although the chariots and ships had lost their Dharma power, they were still immortal-level materials. They would be of great use after being refined. And there were so many of them that they could form an army that could slay deities to resist the invaders of many worlds. This was a great gift. Jiang Tian quickly cupped his hands and said, "Now that I have this stone cauldron, I will carry on Emperor Sheng's will and guard the deity ground." Little brother, I'm very worried. If the deity ground has been occupied by the alien races, I hope you can go there and kill them. The Chinese will never be slaves. He pointed at the depths of the universe and shouted loudly. After saying that, he fell silent. The general was no longer breathing. His last will was gone. All that was left was an arm raised and pointing in the direction of the southern gate twin stars. Jiang Tian sighed and said, "Master feels that this general is full of fighting spirit, hot-blooded, valiant. He is a great hero. We should bury him and erect a stone tablet for him." Yes. Mao Hongdai nodded. At the same time, a portal suddenly appeared at the edge of the Luai's small world. A few men and women stepped out of it. Say, if Lei Meng can really break through the spatial barrier, will we be able to follow him into West Earth? A girl in a green outfit landed on the ground. She looked cute and her big watery eyes scanned the surroundings. If we can enter West Earth, we will be able to set foot on Earth first. I heard that West Earth belonged to the ancient Indians and they have a portal to Earth. I heard that a year ago, the confinement of heaven and earth on Earth was triggered, which means that someone has reached the foundation establishment level. So, the conditions for the revival of spirit chi on Earth have been met. The Emperor of the Ruins once said that any sect that can reach Earth, kill all the overlords and occupy Earth will be able to cultivate in the Emperor's palace in the ruins of deity. You're dreaming, Qing Luo. It's not the first time we've been here. Don't you know what's going on? Behind the green-clothed girl, a man with sword-like eyebrows and starry eyes, wearing golden armor and holding a long saber in his hand, stroked the girl's head and said dotingly, "Lei Meng is powerful, but he can't break the dimensional barrier. We have no hope of setting foot on West Earth. But Lei Meng is very powerful and can kill Golden Core overlords. We have to avoid him. Remember, our goal is to find the treasures left behind by the prosperous emperor. The Primal Chaos Source Cauldron and the Galaxy Crystal Sand." Galaxy Crystal Sand? The Primal Chaos Source Cauldron. Hearing this, Ao Qingluo's face showed a hint of longing as her beautiful eyes shone brightly. Beside her, a woman with an otherworldly face and an exceptionally cold expression also revealed a hint of excitement. Even if our true dragon sect is the top orthodoxy in the Dragon Gate world, we can't even compare to the third-rate sects in the ruins of deity, let alone the ruins of deity. After all, our Dragon Gate world is only a third-level dimensional world. But it's different if we find the galaxy crystal sand. I heard that one galaxy crystal sand can create a golden core overlord. A handful is enough to push someone to the nascent soul realm. Even in the ruins of deity, people will fight for it. When the time comes, we can move to the ruins of deity and even receive the ruins emperor's attention. This cold woman was obviously the leader of this group of people. When the others heard this, they all nodded in agreement. However, Ao Qingluo frowned and said, "Senior Sister Wushuang, do you think that our true dragon sect has searched this place more than 100 times without finding anything? Could it be that the treasure has been found by someone else?" "No." Ao Wushuang shook her head and said calmly. "The galaxy crystal sand can condense an Earth-type golden core. But all these years, I've never heard of any Earth-type golden core overlords in the ruins of deity or the dimensional worlds. It's obvious that it hasn't been found yet. We still have a lot of hope. But our true dragon sect cultivates wind-type or water-type physiques because of our bloodline and physique. Even if we get the galaxy crystal sand, it's useless." Ao Qingluo said with a distressed expression. "Idiot." The young man in golden armor, Ao Weifeng, said with a smile. "There are many people who cultivate Earth-type techniques in the ruins of deity. If we sell it, it'll be priceless. Besides, there are many demonic beasts here. If we kill them, their demonic cores and demonic cores are all money. Although the armor and weapons on the corpse hill have lost their dermic powers, the materials are not ordinary. They'll be worth a lot of money if we refine them." Ao Wushuang nodded and said, "Yes, let's go to the corpse hill first and find the remaining dermic artifacts and weapons. I heard that Emperor Shen was the person who pushed the ruins of deity and the dimensional worlds away from the ancient earth. Without the heroes of the Emperor Sheng era, we wouldn't have reached the Southern Gate Twin Stars. If we do this, won't we be robbing a tomb? That's not good, right?" Ao Qingluo said hesitantly. "Shut up. What Emperor Sheng era? What heroes?" Ao Wushuang shouted. "Do you know that if your words reach the ears of the ruins of deity and the Emperor's palace, our true dragon sect will be annihilated? If you dare to spout nonsense like this again, I'll destroy your dantian." "Senior sister, I know I'm wrong." Ao Qingluo was so scared that her body trembled. Her face was as white as a sheet. She said fearfully, "I won't do it again. I only heard, Qingluo, don't blame eldest senior sister for being strict. This is for your own good." Ao Weifeng's face turned serious as well. 20,000 years ago, the history of the Emperor Sheng era was completely wiped out by the ruins emperor. The ancient Yan Huang tribe was all suppressed and stripped of their cultivation. Countless sects that knew about it were killed and their souls destroyed. Outside, you must always say that the ruins of Deity Continent was originally on the Southern Gate Twin Stars and belonged to the ruins Emperor. And the Golden Crow Emperor on the Southern Gate Twin Stars was the Creator Emperor. The Earth world is not our homeland. It's just a backward dimensional world that we can't be bothered with. Chapter 1186. Yes, I understand. I will keep it in mind. Ao Qingluo hurriedly nodded, tears welling up in her beautiful eyes. Let's go. Ao Wushuang's face was gloomy as he stepped into the air. A flood dragon Dharma form gushed out from his dantian and condensed under his feet. The others also stepped onto the flood dragons. Riding on the dragons, they flew at an extremely fast speed towards the Hill of Skeletons. Senior sister, your true dragon bloodline seems to have been completely awakened. Your dragon taming technique has become even more powerful. The late stage of the Golden Core realm is indeed powerful. Ao Qingluo praised. What is this? Ao Wushuang shook her head with disdain, and her clear and beautiful eyes flashed with a trace of gloominess. In the high Lan level 2 dimension, Long Xingnan of the Dragon Clan was a peerless beauty. Even without the bloodline of a true dragon, she could still simulate the image of a true dragon, far surpassing her own image of a true dragon. Back when he had gone to the ruins of immortality to listen to scriptures at the ruins Emperor's Hundred Moons Academy, he had encountered Long Xingnan by chance and had been defeated by her in 3 moves. If I can get the galaxy crystal sand or other lost treasures, I can probably trade it for a Dinghai pearl and refine it into my dantian to upgrade my gold core to the mid-grade. Then, I will avenge myself. Ao Wushuang secretly made up his mind, and a trace of determination flashed across his tightly pursed lips. The flood dragon's speed was extremely fast. Riding on the clouds, it traveled several miles in the blink of an eye. It skillfully dodged the space fragments and got closer and closer to the corpse hill. Ao Weifeng quickly ordered, "That's right. Remember, those skeletons are all nascent Soul Realm strong practitioners. The strongest could even be Soul Formation Realm strong practitioners. Every single one of their spirit embryos and divine treasures has a huge amount of magic power left behind that can kill Golden Core Realm practitioners. Don't underestimate them, be extra careful." "Yes, senior brother." Everyone responded in unison. Suddenly, Ao Wushuang exclaimed in shock. She only saw a young man and a young woman digging up the magical equipment and storing them in their storage rings on a hill of bones 10 kilometers away. However, those skeletons were all gone, replaced by graves. "Senior sister, quick! Someone is actually picking up the scraps. Could it be that too much time has passed and the obsession of these experts' corpses has completely disappeared?" Ao Weifeng also noticed this and exclaimed in shock. Whoosh! The flood dragon's speed was even faster. In the end, it drilled into Ao Wushuang's dantian like a swallow returning to the forest. The few of them floated to the ground. Ao Wushuang's expression was displeased, and his face was as gloomy as water. Jiang Tian was so fast. They had only been here for a few minutes, but Jiang Tian had already put all the treasures into his storage ring. What was left on the ground were only a few pieces of seriously decayed and almost useless magical equipment. Seeing that her senior sister's expression was not right, Ao Qingluo placed her hands on her hips, her face full of arrogance, and coldly scolded, "Why did you take everything away? Aren't you being too greedy?" Jiang Tian frowned. Based on his past temperament, he would have killed anyone who dared to offend him like this. However, now that Qing'er was pregnant and he had collected all the spiritual energy recovery seeds he needed, he was in a peaceful and happy mood and did not want to kill people at will. Looking at the slightly protruding dragon horns on their foreheads, Mao Hongdai was surprised. She also felt a surge of dragon power from them, and her eyes slightly narrowed, looking more noble and dignified, but also a little scared. She said with her immortal will, "Master, they don't seem to be ordinary humans. Are they dragons?" It was said that many of the ancient Tianzhu race were descendants of the divine elephant and had part of the divine elephant bloodline, such as the Moyang family. However, they were also afraid of dragons. Legend had it that dragons were the most powerful race among the thousands of demon races. Even an old monster like Jiang Tian, who had cultivated for 10,000 years, had 2 divine forms, the azure dragon and the winged dragon, which showed that he was extraordinary. They're not purebred dragons. They're a hybrid between dragons and humans. Their bloodline is very faint, Xian heir. Jiang Tian said softly with his immortal will. And it's a weak flood dragon. It's about the same as the little snake. Don't be afraid. Seeing that Jiang Tian and the others did not answer, Ao Qingluo was even more annoyed. She put her hands on her hips and scolded with a frown. "These things were originally ownerless, but we found them a year ago. How can you take them? Hand them all over." Mao Hongdai was also a little afraid, but after hearing Jiang Tian's words, she became bolder and retorted. "You also know that these things are ownerless. Of course, they're first come, first serve. You're late, so you don't have them. Why are you asking me for them? How dare you refute? Ao Qingluo did not argue. She released her immortal qi and scolded. Weaklings are sinners. Why should I ask? Because I can beat you. Is that enough? Hand them all over. They saw that Jiang Tian and Mao Hongdai were foundation establishment cultivators, so they did not take them seriously at all. Ao Qingluo even wanted to snatch them. Forget it. Ao Wushuang pondered for a while, then waved his hand and said softly. They got it first. Don't snatch it. If word gets out, it'll be bad for your reputation. There should be some things in the tomb. Qingluo, Wei Feng, go and get them. Yes, yes. Let's move quickly. Ao Qingluo led a few junior brothers forward and wanted to open the tomb. Stop. In his anger, Jiang Tian used the demonic dragon roar. The sound waves rumbled like thunder, causing Ao Qingluo's blood to boil. She was so frightened by Jiang Tian that she staggered and her face turned pale. Senior brother Wei Feng, look. He shouted at me. How dare he shout at me? What a boorish man. Kill him quickly. Ao Qingluo's eyes were filled with tears as she pulled Ao Wei Feng. Although she looked pure, she was actually extremely indulgent. She used her beauty to hook up with many people in the sect. Ao Wei Feng could not resist her charm at all. I'll help you kill them. Ao Wei Feng snorted and closed in. Hold on. But at this moment, Ao Wushuang felt that Jiang Tian was too calm. Furthermore, the power of that roar seemed to be quite strong. He was probably not just a foundation establishment cultivator. In the group, only Ao Wei Feng and he were golden core cultivators. The others were all foundation establishment cultivators. Of course, they could kill the other party if they attacked together. However, the situation of the battle was constantly changing and they might suffer some losses. Ao Wushuang softened his tone and cupped his fists. Fellow Daoist, these corpses are nameless and have no relatives. Why don't you let us dig their graves? They just talked to me and gave me many relics. That's why they exhausted their obsessions. Jiang Tian said indifferently. Otherwise, you wouldn't have the ability to touch their corpses. Their silence was caused by me. Naturally, I have to protect their graves. Furthermore, they all want to be buried in peace. I've already obtained all their relics. Why do you want to alarm them? I'm afraid there are still some remnants left. Ao Wushuang sneered and said proudly, I wonder if you've heard of the famous True Dragon sect in the Dragon Gate dimension. Never heard of it. Jiang Tian crossed his arms and said casually, why? Is the True Dragon sect very strong? Do you want to snatch it? What if you really want to snatch it? Ao Wushuang frowned when he saw him like that. Given how frivolous he was, he probably did not have any real skills. Perhaps, his speculation earlier was just an illusion. Whoever dares to move will die. Jiang Tian sneered with a cold killing intent in his eyes. Jiang Tian did not dare to say that he was a perfect person in terms of morals. However, he was someone who kept his promises and would fulfill them. Since he promised to bury them, he had to do it. Even if their souls were destroyed and their obsessions were gone, that promise was still valid. I'll move a little. Try and see if you can kill me. Ao Weifeng's face was filled with disdain as he approached a tomb with a mocking smile. He was clearly trying to stir up trouble. In any case, in his opinion, Jiang Tian was at most a pseudo-core cultivator. There was no way he could be a golden core cultivator. He was a golden core paragon after all. Crushing Jiang Tian was like crushing an ant. Hold on. Ao Wushuang raised his hand to stop him again with a hint of mockery. We don't have to do anything because someone is already here. Whoosh. 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 A few streaks of black light shot over from afar. They were as fast as lightning. When they got closer, Mao Hongdai realized that these black streaks of light were actually black streams of water. The black streams of water turned into essence qi and entered her dantian. One by one, experts dressed in black with cold expressions landed on the ground. The leader was a middle-aged man with a large head, a flat nose, triangular eyes, and a slightly large mouth. His face was sinister as he walked over with his hands behind his back. Wherever he passed, wisps of cold aura spread out. The ground froze and many plants withered. Interesting. He actually has the bloodline of the black whale and the aura of the Xianming water. He's not a pure human either. It seems that there's really something wrong with the ruins of immortality system. It's not the human race that's in charge. The demon race is quite powerful. At this moment, Jiang Tian scanned with his divine sense and flicked his fingers. A trace of interest appeared on his face. Greetings, Uncle Li. Seeing this middle-aged man, Ao Wushuang hurriedly bowed deeply and respectfully. Greetings, Elder Li. Ao Weifeng and Ao Qingluo both knelt on the ground with their foreheads touching the ground. They were so shocked that they didn't even dare to breathe loudly. Then, Ao Wushuang straightened up and glanced at Jiang Tian and Ao Qingluo, who were reinforcing the tomb, as if he was looking at a dead person. His eyes were full of contempt as he sneered and whispered. A gentleman's wealth is his own ruin. Now that a perfected golden core cultivator is here, I'd like to see how a mere foundation establishment ant like you can protect these tombs and treasures. Chapter 1187. Under the ruins of deity were the Dragon Gate, Yingzhou, Penglai, and the Northern Ocean. This elderly was a cultivation imparting elder of the number 1 orthodoxy in the Northern Ocean realm, the profound underworld sect. He was a peak stage golden core cultivator and was very powerful. He was famous in many of the third-level worlds. Normally, even the sect leader of the True Dragon sect had to be courteous to him and treat him with respect, not daring to slight him in the slightest. It's brother Ao's daughter, Wushuang. Elder Li only nodded his head slightly. Even though he had met Zhang Xian before, his expression was haughty and arrogant. If the sect master of the True Dragon sect was here, he would have to be careful. But these disciples and juniors didn't need to be. Even though Ao Wushuang was the daughter of an elder of the True Dragon sect, she was nothing compared to him. Uncle Li, why are you here? Ao Wushuang asked curiously. This time, dozens of overlords from the Northern Ocean have gathered to kill Lei Meng. But it's not time yet, so I'm looking around. Maybe I'll find something. Elder Li frowned and said coldly, this battle is very dangerous. It might fill the entire Thunder Lock with lightning. You're just normal golden core cultivators and foundation establishment cultivators. You won't be able to withstand it. Leave now. No, Uncle Li, I just came here and I haven't found anything yet. How can I leave empty-handed? Ao Wushuang went up and pulled on Elder Li's sleeve. She then winked at Ao Qingluo and the other female disciples behind her. Besides, with you here, how can anything happen to us? At this moment, her face was full of flattery. She didn't have the slightest coldness and arrogance from before. It seemed that her arrogance and aloofness depended on the person. If she met someone stronger than her, she would immediately become very gentle. Elder Li, I've heard of your name a long time ago. Now that I've met you, you're indeed extraordinary. Ao Qingluo lightly walked over, her slender waist swaying as she walked over. Her plump chest leaned on Elder Li's arm as she began to chat with him. 2 other good-looking female disciples immediately walked out as well. Soon, they got along well with the group of male disciples from the mysterious underworld sect. They were chatting and laughing. That's right, Elder. With you here, what are we afraid of? You're one of the most powerful overlords in the sect. Seeing how cute these beauties were, the disciples of the Xianming sect also liked them very much. They couldn't help but support them. Forget it. Forget it. I'll bring you in. A soft and bouncy feeling came from his arm, and Elder Li could not help but feel restless and restless. This Ao Qingluo was quite a beauty. When he returned, he would tell the true dragon sect leader that taking her as a concubine would be a good idea. He couldn't resist the temptation of Ao Qingluo's beauty and gentleness. He had no choice but to agree. However, once you get close to the chaotic Thunder Mountain range, enter the protective shield I've created for you, and don't move around. Soon, there will be hundreds of Golden Core Overlords cultivators gathering. In addition, there are also sect master level powerhouses coming from Penglai, Yingzhou, and even the ruins of immortality. If you offend them, even Uncle Li won't be able to help you. Thank you, Uncle Li. Ao Wushuang quickly thanked him. Ao Qingluo even pecked him on the face. Uncle is so nice. Ha! It's my pleasure. Elderly laughed heartily, feeling very pleased. However, he suddenly swept his gaze around and sneered. Little girl Wushuang, did you take all the things here? You're so lucky. We didn't pick them up. Ao Wushuang shook her head and looked at Jiang Tian with a faint smile. They picked them up. Elderly looked at Jiang Tian and Ao Qingluo. He immediately put his hands behind his back and said arrogantly. Ha, it's actually ants from West Earth. I didn't expect that there would be people from West Earth here. Hurry up and hand over the things, and I'll spare your lives. Mao Hongdia's clothes were quite unique to West Earth. Elderly was very knowledgeable and naturally recognized it. Ha, so it's an idiot from West Earth. Weakling, how dare you challenge us? Hearing this, Ao Weifeng, Ao Qingluo and the others all revealed looks of disdain, extremely dense. West Earth did not belong to the ruins of immortality system, and no one had entered for hundreds of years. However, they had heard of it. It was rumored that the cultivation techniques there were very inferior, and the spirit qi there was sparse. Billions of people could only reach the nascent soul stage after diligently searching for it. Not a single nascent soul cultivator had appeared in the past 10,000 years. Ao Wushuang also confirmed the guess in his heart. He immediately smiled and said, this person took all the things, not leaving a single one behind. Also, they won't let us touch these tombs. The experts of the Xianming sect all looked sharp as they stared at Jiang Tian. This kid is so greedy. He took everything. He didn't even let anyone touch the rest. How arrogant and overbearing. He deserves to be killed. A mere 5th-level foundation establishment cultivator is not even a first-class expert in West Earth. In the ruins of immortality, he's like trash. How dare he be so arrogant? Let's just stomp him to death and see how arrogant he can be. A struggling expression appeared on Ao Wushuang's pretty face. She hesitated for a moment before she finally said, Seniorly, this matter arose because of me after all. I hope that elderly will only take their things and not kill them. Besides, because there are no teleportation arrays and space barriers, West Earth has always minded its own business. It's better for us not to kill. Okay, Wushuang, I'll give you face and not kill them. Elderly put his hands behind his back and looked at Jiang Tian with disdain. He sneered and said, Besides, ants like them are not worthy of me killing them personally. Lowly creatures of West Earth, put down your things and get lost. I'll spare your life. Jiang Tian glanced at Ao Wushuang and thought to himself, although this woman is greedy for treasures and is not a good person, she still has a bottom line. He said indifferently, All right, I won't kill you just because of what you said. What did you say? Ao Wushuang was stunned and looked at Jiang Tian as if she was looking at a madman. Jiang Tian no longer paid any attention to him. Instead, he faced elderly and said mockingly, Ants? Jiang Tian's face turned cold and he sneered. Kneel down and apologize. Leave behind your storage bags and storage rings and get lost. I'll spare your lives. This young man really doesn't know what's good for him. Ao Weifeng was stunned and in disbelief. He actually dares to challenge a perfected gold core expert. Crazy, he must be crazy. Ao Qingluo's face was full of mockery as she shook her head. Cultivators had to be extremely rational and calm. They had to keep a low profile. When they met a strong enemy that they had no chance of winning, they should not fight to the death and immediately flee. This young man was too arrogant. A weakling at the 5th level of the Foundation establishment stage actually dared to challenge a gold core expert. How did he survive until now? He's an ordinary human with no special bloodline. To be able to reach the 5th level of the Foundation establishment stage at the age of 30, he's considered a genius even in the ruins of immortality. Ao Wushuang was stunned for a moment, but he smiled bitterly and shook his head. Geniuses have a smooth journey and are surrounded by flattery and praise. Naturally, he'll develop an arrogant and unruly personality. But this kind of personality will only harm him. He's kicked an iron plate today. At this moment, both the experts of the Xianming sect and the True Dragon sect looked at Jiang Tian as if they were looking at an idiot. This person was courting death. Mortal, what did you say? How dare you disrespect me and provoke me? Sure enough, Elder Li's eyes widened when he heard this. His anger soared as he reprimanded sternly. Suddenly, the Xianming water surged out from his dantian and a black whale dozens of meters long jumped up. It opened its mouth wide and seemed to be able to swallow an island. He was a gold core expert and an elder of the Xianming sect. He was famous in the entire Northern Sea. He had the Northern Sea Kunpeng art. The Xianming water was extremely cold and heavy, able to destroy and freeze everything. The Kunpeng soared into the sky at an unparalleled speed. With this skill, not many people in the 2nd level dimension or the ruins of deity dared to provoke him. But now, a mere 5th level Foundation establishment cultivator in West Earth dared to ask him to kneel and apologize and hand over his storage ring. This was simply a provocation he couldn't accept. I said, kneel and kowtow to admit your mistake, put down your storage ring, and then get lost. Are you deaf? However, Jiang Tian's expression was very calm, and his tone was very relaxed. It was as if all of this was very natural. Fine, since you want to die, I'll grant you your wish. Elder Li was enraged. He laughed maliciously and his dantian rumbled like thunder. The black water surged. Immediately, the Xianming water surged, like a great river, the raging waves swirling towards Jiang Tian. The Netheresian water was heavy like a millstone, and it emitted enormous rumbling sounds as it obliterated everything. It was like a sharp sword that slashed open the earth, and it blasted the rocks and ground in an area of 500 kilometers into disorder, causing numerous enormous ravines to be revealed. In the Xianming water, the giant whale expanded to 100 meters long. Its mountain-like head opened its mouth and bit towards Jiang Tian as if it could swallow the world. Kunpeng was an ancient beast. In short, it was a giant whale. When cultivated to the extreme, it could sublimate and transform into a peng. Its wings were like clouds in the sky and it could soar 90,000 miles. Is this the Northern Sea Kunpeng art? It's really domineering. Not to mention a Foundation establishment cultivator, even a normal gold core cultivator would be destroyed and devoured. Seeing this, Ao Wushuang and the others were shocked. They were confident in Elder Li and thought that Jiang Tian would definitely die. You want to kill me with just a few drops of dirty water? Jiang Tian's face was calm and a mocking smile appeared at the corner of his mouth. He gently stomped his right foot on the ground. In his dantian, a few thick earth god suppressing chains broke and exploded. The Xianming water azure dragon's divine body instantly exploded. Rumble. Waves of vast and surging black mysterious water gushed out and revolved around Jiang Tian's body. A huge azure dragon rose behind Jiang Tian. Its body was hundreds of feet long, far larger than the giant whale. It was extremely frightening. Chapter 1188. What's that? He's only at the Foundation establishment level, but he has a Dharma form. Elder Li and the others were startled. Their faces turned pale as if they had seen a demon. Their hearts trembled as a bad premonition appeared in their hearts. Go! Jiang Tian waved his hand calmly. Boom! Surrounded by the mystic water, the azure dragon roared out, baring its fangs and brandishing its claws. With a swipe of its claws, it smashed the giant black whale into pieces. Oh no! Elderly spat out blood and his face turned as pale as a sheet of paper. Fear appeared on his face. A Dharma form, even an illusory one, was connected to one's divine sense and golden core. Now that his Dharma form was destroyed, he had suffered a backlash and his divine sense and golden core were severely damaged. Come back. He had lost at least a third of his golden core. Elderly didn't dare to take the risk and tried to recall the black water. The Xianming water immediately rushed towards his energy center. However, it was already too late. The azure dragon opened its bloody mouth and sucked the dark nether water into its stomach like a whale sucking in water. Its energy seemed to have become stronger. How is this possible? Elderly was shocked. He had thought that he could defeat Jiang Tian in the blink of an eye. He had never thought that this would happen. The azure dragon was the most powerful Taiyin divine beast in the universe. It controlled all water energy and was best at swallowing. Elder Li's Xianming water wasn't the real deal. How could he resist the power of the azure dragon? If I don't take revenge, I'll be a human being. At this moment, his gold core had suffered a great loss. Elder Li's heart ached, and he hated Jiang Tian to the bone. But he was an experienced man and knew that if he couldn't kill his target, he would run away. He didn't turn around and looked at the azure dragon cautiously before retreating like lightning. However, he suddenly felt a chill in his energy center. He looked down and saw a huge bloody hole in his chest. Through the bloody hole, he saw Jiang Tian standing in the air with a bloody black golden core in his hand. His eyes were cold, and the corners of his mouth were full of mockery. You! What's your level? Elderly staggered to the ground and knelt on the ground. He raised his head and looked at Jiang Tian with a face full of shock. He had been so focused on dealing with the Xianshui azure dragon that he did not notice when Jiang Tian had appeared behind him. Didn't you say it yourself? A mere 5th level of foundation establishment. Jiang Tian tossed the bloodstained Jindan into the air and caught it. He chuckled with a hint of mockery. The thick earth god-suppressing chains were too miraculous. Not many people in the central galaxy could control them. With Elder Li's cultivation, it would be strange if he could sense Jiang Tian's true cultivation. Moreover, even if he could sense Jiang Tian's true cultivation, he would not be able to estimate Jiang Tian's combat strength. Either way, he would die. At this moment, Elderly finally understood that he had met an expert who was even more terrifying than the top experts of the ruins of immortality. This person could produce a Dharma form, which meant that he was at least a golden core expert. However, Jiang Tian's Dharma form consumed a lot of his Dharma power, but his speed was still so fast and his attacks were so fierce and powerful. He was no longer as simple as an ordinary golden core expert. Could it be that he has a super-grade golden core? There are only a few people in the ruins of immortality who have such a golden core. Elder Li's heart was filled with fear and regret. He had played the eagle all his life, but now he had been pecked in the eye by a small sparrow. Senior, please return the golden core to me for the sake of this junior's cultivation. This junior will definitely repay senior's great kindness. Thinking of this, Elder Li immediately kowtowed as if he was a believer in front of a god. He prostrated himself on the ground and kowtowed as if he was pounding garlic. He begged bitterly. Senior, you are an expert. You are a god. Please don't lower yourself to my level. Let me go this time. From now on, you will be my father. All of this happened in the blink of an eye. After all, the speed of the two was too fast, beyond the limit of their eyesight. Then, when the aftermath of the Dharma power dissipated, they saw Elder Li kneeling on the ground. His dantian was already bleeding and a big hole was opened. Jiang Tian held the black Jindan in his hand and stood proudly in the void like a god, accepting Elder Li's defeat. How is this possible? Ao Wushuang was dumbfounded and could not believe it. Elder Li, he actually knelt before him. Ao Qingluo looked as if she had seen a ghost. Her face was as pale as paper, and her delicate body trembled. Oh my God! He actually defeated Elderly. What level of cultivation does he have? Ao Weifeng's mouth was so round that a pear could be stuffed into it. At this time, everyone's hearts were about to explode as they watched in shock. They watched as the high and mighty Elderly, who was like a god in their hearts, kowtowed in front of Jiang Tian like the most loyal servant. He kept kowtowing, wagging his tail, and cowering like a quail. Didn't you want me to kneel to you, throw away my storage Dharma treasure and get lost? Jiang Tian sneered and said, didn't you want to kill me? Now that you realize that you are not my match, you want me to spare you. Who do you think I am? Senior. Elderly was speechless. Only sparkling tears rolled down his face, and his heart was filled with deep regret. However, he could not blame Jiang Tian. In the world of cultivation, the strong were respected, and the weak were ants. When the strong were angry, the earth would be dyed red with blood and millions of corpses would be left. He had killed countless people in his life, and his hands were stained with blood. He had killed countless people and had seen too many people cry before they died. However, he never thought that it would be his turn so soon. These tears of regret, despair, and fear would also flow from his eyes. The golden core condensed from the Xianming water is not bad. Azure Dragon, this is your reward. Jiang Tian smiled and threw the golden core out. Azure Dragon's face was filled with excitement and gratitude. He soared into the air, opened his mouth and swallowed the golden core. He chewed a few times and swallowed it into his stomach. My golden core, Elderly was dumbfounded. Then, he was like a child who had lost his favorite toy. The golden core to a cultivator was like an engine to a car. Now that he had lost his golden core, the remaining true essence in his meridians and sea of qi was negligible. He had fallen from heaven to hell. To him, this was more painful and unbearable than losing his life. He was in so much pain that he wanted to die. Remember, those who kill are more people than they kill. How can someone like you, who treats other people's lives like grass, have a good ending? Jiang Tian sneered and said, is it painful? I have always been merciful and can't bear to see other people cry. Let me send you on your way. Then, without waiting for Elderly to react, he slapped him mercilessly. Boom! The vast and endless seventh metal true essence condensed into a 2-meter-long golden giant palm. It was not big, but it was as heavy as a mountain. Under the palm, everyone could only see. Elderly, who raised his head, was full of despair, fear, and unwillingness. Then, Elderly was covered by the golden palm. Blood splashed, broken bones flew, and viscera fragments shot out like arrows. After the giant palm smashed Elderly into pieces, it still didn't lose its momentum and sank deeply into the ground. The abundant and irresistible force pushed the surrounding earth and mountain rocks up like waves, surging in all directions. When the golden giant palm was retracted by Jiang Tian, everyone only saw a deep pit of more than 10 meters on the ground. As for Elderly, he had completely disappeared from this world. Only some rotten flesh and blood proved that he had once appeared. After killing Elderly, Jiang Tian's face did not change. It was as if it was not a sect leader who had just been killed. He waved his hand, and the profound technique Azure Dragon roared, turned into a rolling true essence, and drilled into his dantian. Da. Everyone's teeth chattered crazily. Especially the overlords of the Xianming sect, who were even more frightened. He killed Elderly with a single palm. Ao Wushuang's pair of beautiful eyes almost popped out. She looked at Jiang Tian in disbelief, as if she had seen a demon. Ao Qinglua was so frightened that her legs trembled and she almost cried. The others could not keep calm. A stormy sea of emotions rose in their hearts. A thought came to their minds. Something big had happened. An elder of the Xianming sect had died in the Thunderlock small world. With the vengeful temper of the sect leader of the Xianming sect, wouldn't he turn the Thunderlock small world upside down? At this moment, he had already arrived at the Thunder Lock. Chapter 1189. He'll probably run away immediately. However, Ao Wushuang quickly remembered that the spatial crystal wall of the Thunder Lock was completely closed, and no one could pass through it at will. Jiang Tian would be safe as long as he retreated to West Earth, and the Stygian sect would not be able to do anything. Yes, the Thunder Lock was connected to the multidimensional worlds. However, if anyone wanted to enter, they would have to go through an exquisite portal. In order to prevent the invasion of the ruins of immortality, the portals of West Earth were all branded with bloodline. Other than those who entered through the portal, no one else could pass through. This place was almost a lawless place. The law of the jungle in the cultivation world was vividly displayed, and there were often killings and robberies. Therefore, in order to avoid being hunted down, almost all portals were branded with such a brand. Other than the owner, no one could pass through. Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian did not run away. It was only to see Jiang Tian sweep a glance over everyone lazily and said indifferently, "You all still haven't handed over your storage rings?" Then scram. "You." A disciple of the Stygian sect showed an unwilling expression and was about to refute. "You're courting death." Jiang Tian's face darkened, and he waved his fingers. Whoosh! A golden blade swept out like a knife cutting water, and the disciple was cut in half diagonally. His corpse fell to the ground. This person is so ruthless. Everyone's hearts trembled, and their faces turned pale. They did not dare to hesitate anymore and placed their storage rings on the ground. There were more than a dozen of them. These are storage rings made of space stones. Not bad. I'll give them to the disciples of Tianqing School later. Jiang Tian waved his hand and grabbed the storage rings. With a swipe of his soul devourer's divine sense, he easily devoured and erased the divine sense imprints on them. There were some good pills and dharma artifacts in the rings, but these were nothing. Jiang Tian did not care about them anymore. However, these rings were indeed made of space stones, and the space inside was not small. The construction method of spatial dharma artifacts was not complicated, but one could not cook without rice. The corresponding materials were required. In Tianqing, Heavenly Kingdom, and West Earth, Jiang Tian did not find any space stones or storage dharma artifacts. This time, it was an unexpected gain. "Senior, can we leave now?" The people of the profound Nether sect asked while trembling like little sparrows in the cold wind. Seeing Jiang Tian casually wave his hand, the people from the profound underworld sect cautiously retreated step by step. Some of them even secretly swore. Once he ran far away, he would immediately use the teleportation gate to return to the sect and call for other experts to kill this person. Who knows, he might even succeed. The few of them looked at each other, feeling pleased with themselves. Ao Wushuang shook his head lightly when he saw this. Although this child's strength was not bad, he was inexperienced and did not know the principle of eliminating the source of trouble. If they go back to report, you might not be able to escape. Tell you to scram. He actually dared to leave. Do you think I'm easy to bully? Unexpectedly, Jiang Tian suddenly raised his eyebrows and shouted in a low voice. Before they could react, he clapped his hands. Paw! A huge palm print that was over 100 meters long appeared on the ground. It was very deep. The people from the mysterious underworld sect didn't even have time to scream before they were smashed to death. Chi! A stream of blood sprayed onto Ao Qinglua's face. She was so frightened that her delicate body trembled. Her mouth flattened and she almost cried out. Jiang Tian's gaze landed on the faces of Ao Wushuang and the others. He said coldly, "Now, do you still want to open these tombs?" "Senior, we don't dare." Ao Qingluo trembled. Ao Weifeng's face was as pale as paper. He hurriedly lowered his arrogant head. Jiang Tian said indifferently, "Cut the crap. Hand over the storage ring." "Senior, please forgive us for being blind and not recognizing your face." Ao Wushuang did not dare to resist when a golden core expert raised his hand to kill. He suppressed the disgust in his heart and took a step forward. But I have no choice. If I don't say it, that elderly will probably kill me. Besides, I did plead for you just now. Although it was a little unnecessary, it was still out of good intentions. I wonder if Senior can let me go. I said that if you help me say a good word, I won't kill you. This is already letting you go. Otherwise, you would have been dead long ago. Jiang Tian said coldly. All right. Ao Wushuang's expression changed indeterminately, alternating between livid and pale, and he felt extremely pained. But the situation was pressing, so he could only laugh bitterly and helplessly in the end, and then he removed his storage ring and passed it over to Jiang Tian respectfully. The others also handed it over. Jiang Tian immediately obtained more than 10 storage rings. He did not bother to check them and directly put them into the sky-devouring demonic gourd. Let's go. Jiang Tian smiled happily. He held Mao Hongdia's waist and soared into the sky. He turned into a long rainbow and pierced through the forest in the distance. Senior sister, we will be blamed by the sect when we return. Ao Qinglua's beautiful eyes were filled with tears. She almost cried with a sobbing tone. Unlucky. We divined before we went out. It's an auspicious day. Why did we meet such a god of plague? Yeah, this person is too ruthless. Everywhere he goes, not even a blade of grass grows. Ao Weifeng and the other disciples' faces were also very ugly. It was as if their father had died. The Dharma treasures and resources in the storage rings did not all belong to them. Many of them were temporarily rented from the sect's mission hall. They would have to return them in the future. Otherwise, they would be severely punished. They came in high spirits. Now, not only did they not get anything, but they also lost the sect's Dharma treasures. It could be said that they went for wool and came home shorn. Ao Wushuang, on the other hand, just stared fixedly in the direction that Jiang Tian left in, and he looked for a long time without saying a word. Senior sister, what should we do? Why don't we go and beg that person from West Earth? Ao Qingluo urged. He seems to be going to the chaotic Thunder Mountain where the Thunder Mantis is. Ao Wushuang narrowed his eyes slightly and said with a thoughtful expression, is he going for the Thunder Mantis? To kill the Thunder Mantis? Is he crazy? I heard that the Thunder Mantis is so strong that even nascent soul and nascent soul cultivators have to avoid it. They don't dare to provoke it easily. I heard that the Thunder Mantis is the most powerful divine beast in the universe and it contains a Thunder Demon core. If it's refined into a Dharma treasure, it can destroy everything, even nascent soul cultivators. I heard that a few hundred years ago, 3 nascent soul cultivators from the Dragon Gate world formed a team to kill it, but they only managed to scratch the surface of the Thunder Mantis. Instead, 2 of the nascent soul cultivators were seriously injured. The other true dragon ancestral patriarch was reckless. Everyone cried out in shock, not daring to believe it. Everyone was talking at once, discussing spiritedly. Ao Wushuang pondered and said, I know. Of course, I know that. But no matter what, the Thunder Mantis Demon Core is a fatal temptation to any cultivator. It's just that we failed too many times before and didn't dare to provoke it. Others might be afraid, but you saw it too. This young man is obviously arrogant and fearless. I guess he's going for the Thunder Mantis. Then only death awaits him. Even nascent soul cultivators can't do anything to the Thunder Mantis. How can he win? Ao Qingluo snorted disdainfully. Ao Weifeng's eyes suddenly brightened and he laughed. Senior sister, once this person is killed by the Thunder Mantis, can't we take his storage ring? Yes, 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 even the treasures of the Xianming sect and his treasures will belong to us. We're rich. We're rich. Many of the true dragon sect disciples were overjoyed and overjoyed. That's right. That's my plan. Ao Wushuang nodded and said calmly, but we can't follow too closely. The Thunder Mantis is too dangerous and there are other demonic beasts. We can't let our guard down. We just need to keep him within the range of our divine sense. At that moment, the few of them did not activate their Dharma powers. Instead, they leaped silently and chased after Jiang Tian. Jiang Tian's speed was even faster. He turned into a streak of light that shot towards the chaotic Thunder Mountain like a bolt of lightning. The closer they got to the chaotic Thunder Mountain, the more demonic beasts there were. They appeared in groups, and many of them were of the lightning attribute. They could spit out lightning and fire, and were extremely ferocious. They were comparable to early gold core stage cultivators, and were terrifying. But even in the heavenly state, Jiang Tian could easily deal with demonic beasts of this level before Jiang Tian had formed the fifth fake core, let alone now. Jiang Tian didn't stop at all. He rushed forward and the golden aura spikes around him pierced through the demonic beasts and killed them. He raised his hand and took the demonic core. Snake Xiao, Winged Tiger, Green-Winged Bat, Ironback Snapping Turtle. I didn't expect there to be so many demonic beasts here, and almost all of them have formed demonic cores. It seems that the western gate of heaven was a sacred place for spirit beasts and spirit springs. There were dozens of Yao cores, and all of them were extremely nourishing. Jiang Tian naturally would not let them go to waste. He kept them all in the heaven-devouring demonic gourd. When he returned, he would concoct medicinal pills and give them to the disciples of the Celestial Clear sect, allowing them to rise to the next level. Moreover, as he got closer and closer to the Thunder Mountain, Jiang Tian found that there were more and more cultivators' corpses. There were hundreds of Foundation Establishment cultivators and even dozens of Golden Core overlords. However, all the Taoist robes, magical treasures, weapons, and storage rings on the corpses had been stripped clean. Even the gold cores had been dug out. Many of the corpses had been broken into pieces and thrown randomly on the ground. This place is so dangerous. When Mao Hongdai saw this, her face turned pale, and her heart trembled. The transmission array will leave the mark of the person who entered it. This kind of mark can only be activated by a living person. Once a cultivator dies here, his body can't be brought back. It's like dying without a burial place. Jiang Tian's eyes narrowed slightly as he let out a long sigh. His tone was somewhat weathered as he said, "No wonder the overlords of the West Earth call this place a hopeless and forbidden place. According to the Changshan sect, only soul formation cultivators can enter this place. Because it's too easy for a golden core cultivator to die here. The Great Path was ruthless and the world was heartless. But that couldn't stop the cultivators. Cultivators seized the fortune of the world, fought against the heavens, and went against the will of heaven. Against the will of immortals and against the will of mortals. Of course, going too far was as bad as falling short. One had to control the balance between going too far and going too far. For example, Ming Rui also went against the will of heaven, but if it was too extreme, he had lost his human nature and fallen into the demon path. It was like trying to get a fish out of a tree. In the end, after trekking for tens of kilometers, a precipitous, lofty, and jagged mountain that was surrounded by lightning appeared before Jiang Tian. It was the Thunder Mountain, where the thunder